You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2709, Chapter 2709, Chapter 576 has found you. 5. Chapter 2709, Chapter 576 has found you. 5. The Outside World. This was the 19th day of the opening of the mansion. There were still 11 days left before the opening of the starry mansion ended. However, at this moment, all the passageways were broken. No one knew if this passageway could be opened again and sent out again. How many people were still alive inside? After a long while, someone sighed, "Let's wait a little longer. I see that there are still many names on the heaven hunting list. If there are no problems with the heaven hunting list, then there is a high chance that they are still alive. Modwa Na, Zhan Wushuang, Changhe, Zhouyue, Sky Devouring. These people are all on the list." The names had not disappeared. There was a high chance that they were still alive. However, the name of the heavenly curse had disappeared. He might have already died. This caused the experts of the heavenly abyss race to sigh. As for the spirit resentment, the passageway had long been broken. Those that were broken before the great change might have died as well. This time, the losses of the heavenly abyss race weren't light. On the immortal side, there was an expression of indifference on their faces. All of them were very calm. However, everyone knew that the immortal race wasn't as calm as they appeared to be. During these 2 days, the immortal kings kept coming out of seclusion, rushing over here. Evidently, the immortals were all dead. The immortals weren't willing to accept this. When the residence opened and someone appeared here, the immortals might cause trouble. No matter which race came out, they might cause trouble. In any case, their people were all gone. As for the humans, there were also many unrivaled experts rushing over. The other races were more or less the same. Unrivaled experts were even more numerous than before. Is there still no news from inside? The starry manor is no longer trembling. There hasn't been any news for a long time. Are there any human descendants inside? Contact them and find out what happened. We'll pay for the resources that were consumed. At this moment, everyone was very anxious. What exactly happened inside? Someone looked at the demon race's side and said, "Demon King Moj, why don't you contact Modwa? Modwa is still on the list, there's a high chance he's still alive." Moj frowned slightly and said indifferently, "He's not the only one alive. Zhan Wushuang is also alive. Changhe and September are not dead." On the human race's side, the great Xia King can contact Xia Longwu. In the distance, the great Xia King said indifferently, "Is it useful for me to contact him? If I tell you, you won't trust me." These words were true. In fact, it was best to contact a few more people and ask what happened. Unfortunately, a group of invincible people did not want to waste their blood essence. Perhaps if they asked now, they would die later. On the human side, the great Xia King pondered for a moment and said telepathically, "It's better to ask about the situation. I'll ask Longwu. I'll do it." The great Zhou King said telepathically, "I'll contact Tianfang." That's right, Zhu Tianfang. The great Zhou King didn't seem to be the great Zhou King, or was Zhu Tianfang a member of the Zhou family? The great Xia King wasn't surprised. He said telepathically, "That's fine. You can burn your blood essence. If we really fight later, it won't be strange if you're a little weaker. Otherwise, it'll be easy to expose your secret." "Do you mean that I'm not as good as old Zhou?" The great Zhou King looked at him with a deep gaze. "Do you think that I'm not as good as old Zhou?" The great Xia King's expression did not change. He said telepathically, "You know very well yourself. Just that spear of his, can you compare?" "Hee, I can try." The great Xia King could not be bothered. "Yes, the great Zhou King here, was the great Ming King in disguise. The real great Zhou King was in the East Rift Valley, and the great Qin King had disguised himself as the great Ming King and entered the Starry Palace. The deployment of high-end combat power created the illusion that the great Qin King was still in the East Rift Valley. This time, the greatest goal of the human race was to let the great Qin King advance. However, some of the movements that came earlier didn't seem to be very good. The great Zhou King. No, the great Ming King didn't say anything more. He turned his head to look at the ancient city of Xinghong once again and frowned slightly. If anything happened this time, who knew what role that kid Su Yu would play? Soon, he sat cross-legged, burned his blood essence, and began to contact Zhu Tianfang. Seeing this, the other experts didn't interfere and looked at him one by one. It seemed that the humans couldn't sit still anymore. Was he contacting Zhou Polong? Soon, the great Ming King faintly established a connection with Zhu Tianfang. In an instant, he entered a special domain. In the next moment, he saw Zhu Tianfang's shadow. He didn't waste any time and quickly asked, "How is old Qin?" "Heavily injured, 3 bodies lost and 2 bodies lost." The Darming King's heart trembled. "Where are the others?" "Xia Longwu and Qin Zhen are heavily injured and are currently recovering." "I'm fine." "Also." "What?" "Su Yu is here. He's too ruthless. He killed countless experts. Be careful. When you guys are teleported out, be careful. The tunnel is broken and you might not be able to teleport back." "I know what happened." In an instant, the great Ming King fell out of his special state, and his face turned pale. It wasn't just because he had expended too much energy. There was also another reason. Something had really happened to the great Qin King. He was in big trouble. Seeing the great Xia King look over, he smiled and nodded. Seeing the others look over, he suddenly revealed a sorrowful expression. "It's over, it's over. Our human race has suffered heavy losses. How tragic." The group of people were speechless. "Screw you. Your human race suffered the least loss, and now, you might live the most. Who would believe you? Who would be stupid? This bastard, even his acting is so hypocritical." The great Xia King smiled, and his smile was as light as the clouds. Very soon, he sent a voice transmission to the great Xia King. "Be prepared. Something has happened to old Qin. 3 bodies have fallen, and 2 bodies have fallen. Once you come out, quickly take old Qin away. Don't let anyone else see anything. As for the human realm, let's keep it between us. At most. Tell old Zhou, not to tell anyone." The great Xia King's heart trembled. Something had happened to old Qin. The worst scenario had happened. Where's the 9-leafed heavenly lotus? This really won't do. I've gotten this. Whether it's old Zhou or me, I've advanced to the immortal soul 3rd level. Even if old Qin doesn't die, I can still suppress the others. L didn't ask. I didn't have the time. There's a high probability that I didn't get it. A dark cloud rose in the great Xia King's heart. This was troublesome. Very soon, the Darming King transmitted his voice. "In addition, that kid Su Yu did go in and kill countless people. This incident might have something to do with him. I didn't ask him about the specifics. If he comes out, it'll be difficult for him to return to the ancient city. Although it's not far, you and I need to think about it. Should we escort him back to the city?" "Of course. But..." The Darming King transmitted his voice. "One is old Qin, and the other is him. Both sides are very dangerous. Tell me, do you think the few of us are enough?" The great Xia King was silent for a long time. He said telepathically, "Back then, we gave up on the many divine languages. Do we still have to give up now? Again and again, if it doesn't work, we'll mobilize all of eternity. While old Qin and we are still alive, we'll fight him. If we fight him once, all the races will be afraid. Let's wait for old Qin to come out before we make a decision. Also, we'd better pretend well on old Zhou's side. Otherwise, there will be a big problem. If old Qin really dies in battle, we'll say that I died in battle. In the short term, I'll continue to pretend to be old Zhou and old Zhou pretend to be old Qin. We'll put on a good show. If a great Ming king died, the human race would be shaken, but they would not collapse. If a great Qin king died, the outcome would be completely different. Therefore, the great Ming king could disappear, but the great Qin king had to continue to exist. The great Xia king did not say anything. When the time came, this was the only choice he could make. Although old Zhou was strong, it was too difficult to replace old Qin. If others did not say anything, he, Xia Wuxian, would not accept it. At this moment, the two human experts were also deeply worried. However, they couldn't show anything on their faces. On the 8th floor of the Starry Palace, Su Yu and Lan Tian quickly followed the trail. Even if they encountered some huge mansions, they didn't go over to investigate. Treasure hunting was secondary. The most important thing was to find the Bloodfire Devil King. Compared to searching for him, Su Yu and the others might be strong, but to be honest, they weren't as useful as the weak little furball. This fellow was extremely sensitive to scents, or the smell of divine runes, or the smell of the Sea of Will. In reality, Su Yu and the others could not smell it at all. And the little hairy ball could really smell it. After searching for a while, the little hairy ball suddenly sniffled in his mind. It's in front, in that big house. Su Yu hurriedly looked over, and his eyes moved. Blood Cavalry General's Mansion. Su Yu looked around, but he wasn't sure if this was a mixed general's mansion or a conferred general's mansion. In short, the Bloodfire Devil King hid inside. L found you. Su Yu glanced at the blue sky, and the two instantly disappeared from where they were. In the distance, in that huge mansion, the Bloodfire Devil King entered the mansion with an ugly expression. Danger! Someone is chasing me. Damn it, I hope that they won't discover me. There are so many mansions in this place, there should be no way for them to discover me. General of the Blood Cavalry. The Bloodfire Demon King muttered in his heart. The Bloodfire Demon race had some records of this general of the Blood Cavalry. He looked at the interior of the mansion again, hoping that there were some good things in there that could help him recover some of his strength. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2710, Chapter 2710, Chapter 577 Bloodfire Fall, Title Change L. Chapter 2710, Chapter 577 Bloodfire Fall, Title Change L. Blood Fire. A faint voice sounded throughout the entire 8th floor. The voice of Blue Sky. He didn't hide it. At the level of Bloodfire, he wasn't that stupid. He didn't even know that someone had arrived and was even ambushed. Of course, Su Yu still hid it a little. He was lucky that the other party didn't discover him. Blood Cavalry General's residence. The Bloodfire Demon King's expression turned cold. Blue Sky. Was there anyone else besides Blue Sky? There must be someone else. Even if he was heavily injured, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with Blue Sky alone. The Bloodfire Demon King didn't say anything. At this moment, he was opening a room. The residences of these ancient existences all had restrictions. He didn't know if there were any treasures in the room, so he decided to open it first. Drops of blood were squeezed out by him. This was the territory of the demon race's experts. In this place, the demon race was given some preferential treatment. However, the restrictions of the ancient experts couldn't be opened just because you were a demon. If it was that simple, the treasures in the ancient experts' mansions would have long been stolen by servants. Take a gamble. However, as he opened the restrictions, wisps of law energy gathered in the air. This was considered theft. Even if he could open it, the law energy would punish him. The Blood-Fire Demon King gritted his teeth and took a gamble. This large room had a name. Fragrant Medicine Hall. Since he had chosen this name, there might be some ancient medicine within. Even if it couldn't allow him to recover his 3 lifetimes, he hoped that he could strengthen his past body so that his physical body wouldn't be so weak. He quickly activated it, and Blue Sky seemed to sense this as well. He smiled faintly and said, "I've discovered you. My little cutie, don't run." Xuehua gritted his teeth and felt hatred in his heart. Arrogant little fellow. If he hadn't been heavily injured, he would have slapped you to death. The Great Qin King is here. What he was more worried about was that the Great Qin King would come up. Apart from the Great Qin King, the other humans were invincible. Zhu Tianfang was the strongest, but he was only at the Eternal 5 Dan level. Of course, he was very powerful now, but if the Great Qin King didn't come, the other party had a higher chance of protecting the Great Qin King. They wouldn't split up. Don't forget, there were still many outsiders in their group. The Blood-Fire Devil King judged all of this with a cold look in his eyes. At most, the other party would have one more invincible, or Su Yu would come. The Blood-Fire Devil King sighed in his heart. Encountering such a young genius, a powerful genius, was actually what they feared the most. Young people were not to be trifled with. When they were young, they had also killed the experts of the older generation to rise up. Now, it was their turn to be old. As they got older, they became more fearful. Once they became more fearful, their will to fight to the death would be worn away. They might say that they were not afraid of death, but how could they not be afraid of death? When they were young, he, the Blood-Fire Devil King, had ventured through the heavens alone. During the 9th title change, he had even ventured through the human realm alone and fought against those old fellows of the human realm. During the last title change, the Blood-Fire clan had slowly risen up in his hands. They relied on fighting and killing. In the end, the Blood-Fire clan became a large clan second only to the incipient demons and became a top-tier existence among the demons. As these thoughts arose, the Blood-Fire Demon King suppressed the palpitations in his heart. Since he had survived the last title change, had he reached the end? He didn't want to. If he died, the Devil Emperor might devour the Blood-Fire Devil race. The foundation he had laid might benefit the Devil Emperor. The Blood-Fire Devil King had never been convinced by that fellow. He wasn't too strong, his schemes weren't too brilliant, he wasn't as powerful as Tian Gu, he wasn't as cunning as the Divine Emperor, he wasn't as daring as the Great Qin King, he wasn't as mysterious as the Life Emperor, and he wasn't as many people. Under his leadership, would the demons be able to survive the 10th tide change? It was a pity that he didn't have much of a chance. His schemes weren't too brilliant either, and he ended up dying in this damned place. Hong! Behind him, the hand of law slammed down on him. The Blood-Fire Devil King grunted and ignored it. He spat out a mouthful of blood, tearing a crack in the barrier in front of him. He instantly turned into a bloody light and tunneled into it. Outside the door, Lan Tian had already located him. Su Yu turned into a clone and directly entered the Blood Cavalry General's residence. Just as Lan Tian wanted to enter, he was blocked by the restriction with a bang. He didn't have enough authority. He had the same authority as the Blood-Fire Demon King, but this was the general's residence of the demon race. He couldn't barge in, but the Blood-Fire Demon King could. Outside the main door, Lan Tian's head was bleeding from the impact. This restriction was very strong, and not only that, at this moment, the power of law was also gathering, as if it wanted to kill him. Lan Tian was anxious. Why can't I go in? As for Su Yu, he was originally still in the clone, but at this moment, it suddenly became obvious. His authority was high, and now he could see a thing or two. He turned his head to look at Lan Tian, then looked at the rapidly healing gap, and saw the words, Fragrant Medicine Hall. He frowned slightly. The Bloodfire Demon King was looking for treasures to recover. How much strength did the other party still have? Suyu wasn't sure how much strength the Bloodfire Devil King still had, but he was at the Eternal Nine Dan. It was very terrifying. Under the heavy injuries of the Great Qin King, he had killed many unrivaled experts. Suyu was still a little worried. Blue Sky wasn't weak, and with the two of them working together, they still had some support. Suyu hesitated for a moment, but once the Bloodfire Devil King recovered, he would be even more troublesome to deal with. He didn't even dare to fight with Blue Sky, so perhaps his strength had dropped drastically. Many thoughts rose in his mind. Seeing that Lan Tian was still unable to enter, Suyu transmitted his voice, Senior Lan Tian, lock down the surroundings. Be careful not to be ambushed. I'll go in first. Senior, think of a way to enter slowly. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2711, Chapter 2711, Chapter 577 Falling Blood Fire, Title Change 2. Chapter 2711, Chapter 577 Falling Blood Fire, Title Change 2. As soon as he finished speaking, Suyu turned into a breeze and quickly disappeared into the closed crack. Suyu burrowed in, still guarding against the ambush of the blood fire. In the end, there was no ambush at all. In front of him, a streak of blood light flashed and flew into the depths of the Great Hall. At this moment, the entire Great Hall had numerous huge medicinal cauldrons floating in the air. Beneath the medicinal cauldrons, they were all connected to the earth fire. This place was definitely a good place to forge weapons and refine pills. It was a treasured land. Suyu could smell some of the large cauldrons on the outside. Some of the cauldrons had already shattered or even disappeared. This was because the earth flames had never stopped burning. If the medicinal cauldrons were not powerful enough, they would have long since shattered. After countless years, there were no medicinal pills left. This was the clay pot stewed chicken. The more it was stewed, the more fragrant it became. However, there was a limit. The fire was not turned off. After stewing it for 100,000 years, it had to be a super old chicken. The casserole had to be first class and top-notch. Clearly, the Blood Fire Demon King also knew this logic. He did not even look at the outside and directly flew into the depths to search for the treasured medicine that had not melted even after being stewed for 100,000 years. Even though the Blood Cavalry General's strength was not as good as his back then, the elixirs that he refined were not that good back then. They had not been destroyed for 100,000 years. Now, they were also top-notch treasured medicines. If the other party was a general with a mixed title, his strength might not be comparable to Shuehua. Even if he was a conferred general, there were not many at the Dao Fusing Realm. Those at the Dao Fusing Realm were usually conferred dukes. Shuehua Demon King was strong and had high standards. The treasures he needed for recovery also needed to be high-end. Suyu also quickly flew ahead. Even though some of the medicinal cauldrons were still intact, some of them had been extinguished, and some were still burning, Suyu could not be bothered to take another look. He quickly flew into the air and flew into the depths of the Great Hall. In less than a minute, Suyu saw a huge treasured cauldron. At this moment, the seven-colored flame was still burning beneath the cauldron, burning the entire cauldron until it was almost completely transparent. This huge cauldron might not have been like this originally. Within the transparent cauldron, 9 medicinal pills were like spirits, jumping and floating. In his mind, little Harry Ball was sniffing wildly. So fragrant. Harry Ball rarely ate these things. Under normal circumstances, he would only look around and have no interest in eating medicinal pills because there were too many impurities, and they were not pure. However, at that moment, Harry Ball's heart was moved by the precious medicine that had been calcined for 100,000 years. It was too fragrant. Precious medicine. At that moment, there was a restrictive spell around the cauldron, and 7 colored flames were burning. The cauldron was still spinning. Devil King Bloodfire was outside the restriction, and he was rapidly cracking it. When he heard the sound, he suddenly turned his head and looked into the sky. A look of helplessness appeared in Devil King Bloodfire's eyes. He was a little late. His luck was not bad. The first mansion he entered was actually a treasure. He was really lucky. The mansion of the Blood Cavalry General actually had such a precious medicine. The Bloodfire Devil King turned his head to look at the sky. He sighed, "This is the Blood Devil Pill. Under normal circumstances, it can strengthen one's physical body in chi and blood. However, this is a 100,000-year-old cauldron of precious medicine. Perhaps, it can even be considered a divine pill. This cauldron was forged by the 7-colored glazed fire for 100,000 years, but it wasn't destroyed. Now, it can be considered a top-tier heavenly weapon. Of course, after being forged for so many years, it might only look powerful. If it moved, it would be crippled. Su Yu, I don't want to continue fighting with you. Take 6 and let the great Qin King recover. I'll take 3, and this cauldron will belong to you. The Bloodfire Demon King said calmly, "You've been tracking me because you're worried that I'll leak information about the great Qin King, right? I'm the only uncertain factor. The others might have been bribed or silenced by you. Races can sometimes rule over many things." The Bloodfire Demon King smiled. At this moment, he had a somewhat domineering aura. He smiled and said, "I'm injured and very seriously injured, but it won't be that easy for you, Su Yu, to kill me. How about this? I promise you that I won't leak any news about the great Qin King or you. You take the big head of the pill, and I'll take the small head." Su Yu slowly appeared on the spot and looked at the Bloodfire Demon King. This was an expert who didn't look too old. He was a middle-aged man, and when he was young, he might have been very handsome. His fiery red hair fell over his shoulders, and his eyes contained a strange handsomeness. On his forehead, there was a fiery red flame symbol, making him seem even more bewitching and beautiful. Bloodfire Demon King. Bloodfire Demon Race. This race was the most adept at fighting, and they also dared to fight the most. Su Yu looked at him. At this moment, his white clothes were undulating. A book appeared in his hand as he looked at the Bloodfire Demon King. He smiled lightly and said, "I'm very interested in your suggestion. I'm not interested in going against you either. I don't know who will benefit from the fight to the end." The Bloodfire Demon King looked at him for a while. He smiled and said, "Then break the restriction together." "I'll break it. You help me block the rules. Your authority seems to be not low. You can better break the rules. After you break it, you'll split the pills and the treasured cauldron and go your own way." Su Yu suddenly smiled and said, "How much strength does Lord have now?" The Bloodfire Demon King laughed and looked at him for a long time. He said, "Not much, but I can deal with Eternal." Su Yu. You're very similar to me when I was young. Regardless of whether he's strong or not, I want to kill him first. If I was young, I would definitely fight with you, but now. PM old. Su Yu nodded and smiled. Sir is old. How about this, Sir, break the restrictions, I will block the rules, and we will snatch the treasure together. Xuehua glanced at him and did not say anything more. He began to break the restrictions. Su Yu was very far away from him. He threw a book to the side to block the gathering of the rules. If there was too much, Su Yu would personally take action and break the power of the rules. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2712, Chapter 2712, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Title Change 3. Chapter 27:12, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Title Change 3. The two of them divided their work and worked together. It seemed to be a happy ending. As the Blood Fire Demon King broke the restriction, he smiled and said, "What level of authority do you have? I feel that the power of the rules here has retreated a lot from you." Level 4. Suyu smiled and said, "What about you?" Level 7. The Blood Fire Demon King smiled and said, "It seems that your opportunities are indeed not small. There are people with great opportunities like you in every era. However, there are very few who are as strong as you. You humans are blessed by the heavens. The legacy of the ancient era has really eaten up 10 generations of people. Your strength should be related to the ancient era." "I guess so." Blood Fire laughed and said, "The Time Master's inheritance or King Wen's inheritance? Or perhaps, the Martial King's inheritance? I have seen other King of Man's inheritances, such as He-Two's and a peerless expert from your human race during the last title change. They are all ancient King of Man's inheritances. They are powerful and monstrous, but they aren't at your level. One don't know." Suyu smiled. "I'm not lying to you. I really don't know." Shuehua nodded. "You probably have some judgment, but you don't know much about the ancient times. Like me, I've always thought that I inherited the ancient Bloodfire demon race's inheritance, but I don't know whether it's true or not." Then, he smiled and said, "Suyu, if I were to invite you to the demon race, would you agree? If I were to heal my injuries, succeed in the Tao merge, kill the current demon emperor, and unify the demon race, you, Suyu, would be able to establish yourself as the king of the demon race and start another race. Would you be willing?" Suyu punched away some of the power of law. He smiled and said, "There are some things that cannot be changed. For example, race. As long as I am alive, I am a human. This is a fact that I cannot change. It is not that I am a demon, but that I am a demon. That is true. What a pity." The Bloodfire Demon King smiled and said, "On the demon race's side, I have high hopes for Modwa Na. What a pity. That fellow is from the incipient demon race. If I tell you, I actually have high hopes for him. I have even thought about Modwa Na becoming the clan leader of my Bloodfire demon race. Would you think that I am lying?" "Sir, you don't need to lie. Moreover, Mordor is indeed talented." The Blood-Fire Demon King smiled. "It's actually quite pleasant to talk to a young man like you. The old generation always has too many ideas." At this moment, he was about to break the restriction. However, he still said, "Suyu, how much do you know about the situation in the myriad worlds?" Suyu shook his head, "One don't really know. Some old antiques are appearing. 10 tidal upheavals have been going on for 100,000 years. There are too many things hidden in time. Up until now, I haven't really come into contact with the history of the first 9 tidal upheavals, let alone the ancient times. I don't know much about many things." The Blood-Fire Demon King smiled and said, "You're right. The 9 tidal upheavals of your human race can be considered a failure in the end. Actually, from this, you can see how many secrets there are. 1 time is fine, 2 or 3 times, all the way to 9 times. You all failed. Could it be that the human race really cannot rise up? Or has the human race really been weak all along?" Suyu nodded. Yes, 9 times. They had failed 9 times in a row. Some of the things contained in this were actually worth pondering. The Blood-Fire Demon King said again, "Your human race, there should still be people alive in the first 9 tidal changes. However, there should also be quite a number of other races that are secretly confronting each other. Actually, quite a number of people have guessed this. Otherwise, once the realm passage opens, we won't be the only ones to invade." As he spoke, he continued, "The Great Qin King and the others are indeed the pillars of the human race. However, they are only the pillars of this tidal change. There should still be people behind them, including the demon race. Actually, after each tidal change ends, there will always be some old antiques that disappear, die, or go missing. Suyu smiled and said, "Are you saying that there are a group of old antiques confronting each other in a place that we don't know about?" The Blood-Fire Demon King smiled again and said, "But your human race should be in a disadvantageous position. The experts accumulated by the 9 tide changes should all be over there. You don't know that I've experienced the 9th tide change. Actually, every time the tide change ends, there are many times when it's inexplicable. Perhaps it's because the outcome has been decided in secret, or perhaps it's because one side has old antiques that can escape, and the situation can often be reversed. After the 9th tidal change ends, your human race has failed. Your human race's 9th tidal change is still very powerful. At that time, everyone said that there was hope for the human race to rise. In the end, the human king from the last tidal change was killed." Suyu revealed a puzzled and curious look. "Human king?" "Yes, in the last tidal change, your human race was stronger than now, and it was also unified. The peerless expert genius I told you about was that late-stage human king, who was truly comparable to the ancient human king. He was very powerful, terrifyingly powerful. In the late stage, he suppressed the immortal, demonic, and divine dragon. He fought many battles and killed countless experts, but in the end, the human race was defeated." Suyu asked curiously, "Because he was killed? Who killed him?" The Blood-Fire Demon King thought for a moment and said, "I'm not sure. It was very chaotic back then. That person was killed during the final battle with the emperors of the various races. Based on my judgment back then, it was very difficult for the half-emperors of the various races to kill him. Moreover, if they really killed him, all the half-emperors of the various races would have been wiped out. In the end, almost all the half-emperors of the various races returned alive. Only he was killed and buried in the Sea of Stars. Therefore, I'm guessing that some old fogies might have appeared and joined forces to kill him." You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2713, Chapter 2713, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Title Change 4. Chapter 2713, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Title Change 4. He looked at Suyu. "So, being too outstanding might not be a good thing." Suyu nodded. "Thank you for your teachings, Senior." At this moment, the Blood Fire Devil King activated the restriction. A strong medicinal fragrance intoxicated the two of them. The Blood Fire Devil King smiled and looked at Suyu. "Let's go to the side. This is a rare treasure, don't destroy it. No matter who wins, it's a good thing to take this treasure. If I win, I'll take this treasure and recover from my injuries. If you win, you can take it. It can help the great Qin King recover from his injuries, or you can cultivate on your own." Suyu smiled and said, "Senior, what are you saying? At this point, young man, it's time for you to behave yourself." The Blood Fire Demon King sighed and said, "You're worried that I'll become stronger after consuming the medicinal pills and kill you. As for me, 3 pills aren't enough. I want all 9 pills. Even if I said I'd give you 6 pills, it's all nonsense. You probably won't believe it." As he said this, his smile appeared. "That's why, let's work together to open the restriction first. Later, we'll both be injured. If we don't even have the strength to open the restriction, we'll be at a loss. The item is here. The winner will take it. Regardless of whether we win or lose, we can make a request to each other. What do you think?" Suyu looked at him and was silent for a while. His smile gradually disappeared. "Senior, please speak." "Actually, it's nothing. If you win, I hope that you can pass some of my relics, which are useless to you, to Madwana. Tell him to fight until the end. That son of AB*TCH doesn't deserve to be the Devil Emperor. Shui was sneered. He doesn't deserve it. Using our clan's geniuses as substitutes and making our clan's geniuses live in fear isn't the way of the Emperor, nor is it the way of the Emperor. It's the way of the devil. A true expert doesn't rely on others to walk out. His Dao merge isn't even reliable, and he still wants to go to the next level. What a joke. The devil clan's hope for him has long been wasted. How can he become one of the 3 strongest races? The Blood Fire Demon King looked down on the current Demon Emperor for a while. He looked down on him, even if the other party was stronger than him. Su Yu was surprised. Senior, you mean that Modwa is more suitable than him? Of course. The Blood Fire Demon King smiled. That guy is an idiot. You don't understand, but one do. No race would place their hopes of revival on their own geniuses. Remember. The Celestials had Zhan Wushuang and the Celestials had Xian Wuji. Everyone said that they were substitutes for the Celestial Emperor and the Celestial Emperor. Nonsense. These two didn't use the 3-body technique, so why would they need substitutes? It was to trick that idiot from my race. He made a large number of our race's geniuses tremble in fear and almost crippled them. When you fought with them, didn't you realize that the emperors of these 2 races placed their blood essence or willpower on them? Su Yu shook his head. That's right. Only our race's idiot has always entrusted his blood essence and willpower to Modwa. Don't you think he's stupid? The Blood Fire Demon King smiled. The last time when his 3 bodies were crippled, he killed a genius on the spot and turned into his past body. This idiot is also cowardly and afraid of death to the extreme. At that time, even if he wanted to do it, how could he do it in front of everyone? Now, everyone in the demon race is in danger. Sigh. There's nothing to say. He's afraid of death, afraid of being killed into the demon world. However, how could he be killed so easily? He was also afraid that I would challenge his authority. Su Yu, if I said that he didn't kill the Demon King back then, I wouldn't snatch his position. Would you believe me? A little. Shui Hua smiled. That's good. At least I don't not believe it at all. I'll tell the truth. At that time, if he didn't kill the Demon King, I really had no interest in caring about him. However, he killed him in front of everyone. I have to stand up for him. Otherwise, the demon race will definitely be unable to recover. At this point, he smiled and said, "Tell me, what kind of request do you have? If I win, I'll also satisfy you." Su Yu thought for a moment, he smiled and said, "It's nothing much. First, I'll safely get my teacher and the others out and return to the human race. Second, forget about the other treasures. I'll leave my divine runes to my teacher. Third, tell my father to marry another one and give birth to another one." The Blood Fire Devil King laughed. "That's it? Your request isn't too high. Since he's already dead, what's the point of having so many?" Su Yu smiled. "It's better to be out of sight than out of mind. What do you think, Senior? How carefree." The Blood Fire Devil King gestured with his hand. Su Yu smiled and followed him to an empty area not far away. That area might be where alchemists usually rested. The Blood Fire Devil King wanted to take all the pills, but Su Yu wasn't willing. Su Yu wanted to kill him to silence him, but the Blood Fire Devil King wasn't willing. Actually, there wasn't much room for negotiation. Both of them knew clearly in their hearts. At their level, who would take the so-called cooperation in obtaining treasures seriously? Rather than scheming against each other later, it was better to decide the victor now. The winner would take it all, and the loser would be finished. Don't destroy the treasure, and leave a few last words. It had to be said that at this moment, Su Yu suddenly felt a little excited and happy to decide the victor with such an expert. Furthermore, an expert like the Blood Fire Devil King was actually quite straightforward. There were some twists and turns, but not too many. Since they had already reached this point, let's make things clear in advance. It did feel like a sparring session. Even though such a sparring session would determine life and death. However, it was very rare to have such an opportunity in the battles of the myriad clans. One-on-one sparring would determine one's life and death, and determine the victor. The two of them walked to that piece of empty land. The Blood-Fire Demon King smiled and said, "You are also strong in your physical body. Even though my physical body is crippled, I am at least a level 9 Eternal Realm expert. Why don't you try playing with me first?" You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2714, Chapter 2714, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Tide Change 5. Chapter 2714, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Tide Change 5. I'll do as you say. Boom. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them collided. Their fists and legs struck out, shattering mountains and seas, suppressing the sun and moon, invincible in battle. Mountain-suppressing fist. Heaven-splitting blade. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu used dozens of cultivation techniques in succession. On the other hand, the Blood-Fire Devil King was much simpler and more direct. From the beginning to the end, he used one fist technique and one leg technique. Rumbling sounds reverberated throughout the world. The two of them fought until the sky and earth were turned upside down. In the blink of an eye, with a loud bang, Su Yu was sent flying backward. His injuries were not serious, while the Blood-Fire Demon King remained where he was. However, his weak physical body had cracked a lot. He smiled and did not pay much attention to it. He sighed and said, "Fortunately, I did not fall. However, your physical body is really not bad." It was quite strong. He had fought for many years, and his techniques and experience were much stronger than Su Yu's. However, his physical body was weak at the moment, so he couldn't display much strength. Even so, he still sent Su Yu flying under the condition that his physical body wasn't strong. In the distance, Su Yu quickly got up. Panting, he smiled and said, "Senior is still senior. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. Other than knowing more. I'm a little mixed and not very good at it. That's normal. You're still young. In fact, you're already pretty good. Among the younger generation, there aren't many who have more battle experience than you. If the older generation didn't experience the 9th title change, then those guys who came later didn't have much experience either." The Bloodfire Demon King walked toward him and said with a smile, "Do you really think that all of them fought their way up? Luck, opportunity, and talent allowed these guys to rise. In fact, there aren't many who fought their way up." As he finished speaking, the two of them collided again. Su Yu punched out, one punch after another. The vibration technique shook the opponent's body. Seeing the Blood-Fire Demon King's body being shaken until it cracked, Su Yu was just overjoyed when suddenly, his right hand was grabbed by the Blood-Fire Demon King. With a low shout, his chi and blood exploded. The Blood-Fire Demon King roared angrily and used all his strength. With a rumble, Su Yu's right hand was twisted and broken. After breaking Su Yu's right hand, the Blood-Fire Demon King still held onto his arm and exploded in the opposite direction. It dragged Su Yu and smashed him onto the ground with a rumble. Su Yu also took the opportunity to kick him, breaking the bones in both of his hands. Boom! Su Yu was smashed heavily onto the ground. A big hole was created on the 8th layer of the extremely solid ground. After Su Yu 72 was cast, there was still a layer of defense around his body. At this moment, he was beaten up by his opponent and his right hand was dropped, his bones were broken. Su Yu's flesh and blood rapidly regenerated, but he was still in unbearable pain. Intense pain. It was even more painful than having his arm chopped off. His physical body was much stronger than the current Bloodfire Demon King, but his arm was still easily broken by his opponent. The Bloodfire Demon King shook his hands and panted for a while. He smiled and said, "You're really powerful. Your physical body is so powerful that it's a little scary. Even if one said that you're at the middle stage of eternity, one would have believed it. You're a monster." Boom! As he said that, his feet were like sharp swords in the next moment. With a humming sound, he kicked through the air. With the incomparable Suyu, he swiftly kicked Suyu. 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 kicks. More than 100 kicks were sent out, but Suyu only had time to counterattack more than 10 times. Boom! Another loud sound rang out as the two separated. From top to bottom, Suyu was covered in footprints and blood marks. There was a dent on his forehead from the Bloodfire Devil King's kick, revealing some blood. As for the Bloodfire Devil King, there were only a few footprints and fist marks on his body, but they were so deep that his bones could be seen. Blood continued to drip down. The Bloodfire Devil King laughed self-deprecatingly. This is what it means to defeat 10 people with one strength. I had hit Suyu many times and kicked him 100 times, but it was not as powerful as the injuries he had received with one punch. Strength, as expected, without strength, no matter how good one's skills were, they would be useless. There was a reason why people pursued realms and power. Suyu panted. "Senior, you must be joking. If you had the same power as me, I would have died. It's not a joke to live for another 10,000 years, right?" The Bloodfire Demon King smiled. "Be careful. It looks like your physical body is no match for yours. Let's play the rules. The rules of time are eternal trump cards. You probably aren't very proficient. It's fine, I'll teach you how to play." Whine. The void penetrated and the Bloodfire Demon King instantly appeared in front of Suyu. He slapped down with his palm. He slapped straight on his forehead. Not only that, at this moment, Suyu's punch had missed. It was as if the two of them were not in the same space and time. "This won't do. You and one are not in the same dimension. My attack, in the future." The Bloodfire Demon King waited for him to punch out before he slapped down with his palm. It directly hit Suyu's arm. With a kacha sound, his arm broke. The Bloodfire Demon King was enveloped by the power of time. He smiled and said, "If that's the case, you'll be defeated. No matter how strong you are, you still have to hit me." Whine. He struck out once more. He was attacking the past and the future, not the present. Suyu kicked out, causing the other party to delay for a moment longer. When he kicked out, his foot stepped on Suyu's leg. With a bang, his calf was kicked. It was an intense pain. This was invincibility. This was the power of time, the power of rules. No matter how strong you were, you could not hit him. Suyu suppressed the irritation in his heart. He suppressed his uneasiness and instantly regained his calm. At this moment, he was no longer impetuous. "I have died many times. I have experience. It's not like I can't deal with him. I have a way." At this moment, the divine text was rapidly being displayed to its peak. "Endure it. Calm down." The quiet divine text was activated. It blocked his perception. The endure divine text was displayed. "Endure it. Don't be rash." You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2715, Chapter 2715, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Title Change 6. Chapter 2715, Chapter 577, Blood Fire Fall, Title Change 6. The Calamity character sensed danger and determined when it would arrive. The slow character activated, reducing the opponent's speed. The blood character activated, extracting the opponent's blood. Su Yu felt as if he had returned to his weak days. Even though his strength was actually stronger than the current Blood Fire Devil King, he was no longer impulsive. Su Yu's eyes flashed with divine light. Suddenly, he punched out once again. Just as he punched out, he suddenly pulled back and struck out with his elbow. Boom! With a loud sound, an arm that stretched out from the void was broken by his elbow. Blood splattered all over the void. The Blood Fire Demon King quickly retreated. His figure appeared as he looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression. No one wanted to die. However, Su Yu was truly a monster. He was not just a powerful boor. He was also a civilized master. He had many tricks up his sleeves. He also had sufficient patience and endurance. You are too monstrous. Su Yu did not say anything. The battle erupted once again. This time, it was Su Yu who took the initiative to attack. He suddenly stared at the river of time beside his opponent. His eyes were as bright as the sun and the moon. This was the source of his rule power. Duan Changhe. Boom! The Blood Fire Devil King retreated, but his arm was hit by Su Yu's punch. Blood dripped again. The Blood Fire Devil King quickly surrounded Su Yu, and the river of time was faintly discernible. He circled around Su Yu and kept attacking, while Su Yu kept fighting back. From the beginning, Su Yu had fought back with one of his 10 punches. Now that the Blood Fire Devil King had fought back with 10 punches, Su Yu could at least fight back with 3 punches. The injuries caused by 10 punches were far less violent than Su Yu's 1 punch. Rumble. An intense sound reverberated through the heavens and earth. It sounded on the quiet 8th floor. The two of them didn't say much. At this moment, the other people on the 8th floor heard the intense sound. In front of a mansion, Madhua Na frowned and listened quietly. In his mind, he quickly constructed a scene of the battle between the two of them. This was also a type of talent. At this moment, Madhua Na seemed to have seen the battle between Su Yu and the Blood Fire Demon King. Retreat. Madhua Na muttered. As expected, the Blood Fire Demon King quickly retreated. As for Su Yu, he punched out. Before Madhua Na could react, the Blood Fire Demon King was extremely shrewd. He struck out with his palm, while Su Yu twisted his arm, a kick flew out. Boom! A loud sound echoed through the entire 8th level. The Blood Fire Demon King was sent flying as blood gushed out from his mouth. Madhua seemed to have heard and seen it. His eyes revealed a touch of helplessness and sorrow. The Blood Fire Demon King was probably really no match for Su Yu. He was unable to heavily injure Su Yu in one strike, leaving behind only minor injuries to Su Yu. Su Yu traded injuries for injuries. Under such circumstances, if they continued to fight, the Blood Fire Demon King would definitely lose. The battle continued. Bang bang bang. Both of them were covered in blood. The more Su Yu fought, the braver he became. His fists were afraid of being young. Moreover, Su Yu's physical body was strong, and he had many divine runes. After continuing to fight for about half an hour, the Blood Fire Demon King was somewhat powerless. His injuries were too severe. His physical body was crippled, and his sea of consciousness was not considered strong. At this moment, he was practically using his quasi-invincible strength to fight against Su Yu. He could still fight against ordinary undefeatable opponents, but against Su Yu, his physical body was stronger than some of the guys who had just entered undefeatable. Rumble. With another loud sound, the Blood Fire Demon King flew backward. Black tainted blood spewed out of his mouth. He looked at Su Yu with some helplessness and unwillingness. 1. If I were of the same level as you. Su Yu said shyly, Senior, I'm Ling Yun. He spat out a mouthful of blood. It was unknown whether he was angry or trying to hide his embarrassment. Yes, Ling Yun. He was Ling Yun. He was not invincible. Blood fire coughed and spurted out of his mouth as he looked at Su Yu. He sighed. You're very strong. But if you really encounter the experienced eternity, even if it's just a short distance, you might not be able to win, you might not be able to hit your opponent. Your speed is too slow. Su Yu nodded. But, if I hit him, I'll kill him with one punch. One punch? Xuehua chuckled. Did you really think that you could kill me with one punch? At this moment, Su Yu took a deep breath. Senior, I respect you as a man, and I didn't bully you too much, but it's time to end it, Senior. Have a good journey, Su Yu will also send you off. At this moment, Su Yu's aura of death was overwhelming. I haven't used my yang aperture yet. I'm afraid that Xingyue won't be able to hold on. Right now, her yang aperture is still absorbing her energy, and Su Yu won't be able to hold on much longer either. I'll first borrow Xingyue's energy. Otherwise, if this continues, Su Yu won't be able to hold on any longer. Mountain suppression. With a roar, this punch was incomparably powerful. The powerful force even broke through the void, revealing a pitch-black spatial crack. And this was the 8th level of the countless experts. In an instant, a large amount of law energy swept over. But Su Yu did not care at all. With a punch, it was earth-shattering. The Blood Fire Demon King was first shocked, then relieved, and finally helpless. Damn it, this fellow actually didn't use his full strength to fight with him. F***CKU. This fellow was too terrifying. Since ancient times, no one, not even the human emperor, could contend for the number 1 Ling Yun. It's not unfair. The Sanguine Inferno Demon King smiled bitterly, but he didn't surrender. Instead, he roared and his chi and blood burned. His physical body dissipated and turned into a fist that contained the power of time. With a rumble, he punched toward Su Yu's fist. Boom! A loud sound shook the world once again, and a powerful force swept out in all directions. The blue sky that had just broken through the restriction had just entered when a loud bang was heard. It was hit by that powerful force on the door. Its body was flattened, and it slowly slid down from the door. There was only one thought in its mind, Su Yu. You're not a fucking human. Bang! At this moment, along with the loud bang, the world shook, and a bloody color instantly appeared in the sky. A huge cloud also appeared at the same time. The bloody cloud was a strange phenomenon of falling. The golden cloud was a reward. Not only that, a power of law also appeared. It was the law of punishment. At this moment, in the outside world. Suddenly, the world shook violently. In the distance. In the sky above the Devil Realm, a powerful figure appeared. He walked step by step towards the Devil Realm. Suddenly, the figure fell. A huge blood sun fell, and the stars in the sky fell. At this moment, the entire myriad worlds in the heavens fell silent. In the next moment, 5 devil kings appeared in the sky above the Devil Realm. They looked up into the sky, and the 5 devil kings knelt on the ground, blood and tears flowing down their faces. My king has fallen. The 10th tide flow, the first to fall to the 9th level of eternity. The heavens shook, the sea of stars shook, and huge waves swept through heaven and earth. Blood rained down. This expert who had survived the 9th tide flow had led the blood fire demon race step by step to the peak. This time, he would never be able to return to the demon race. Send my king. Tens of thousands of blood fire demons screamed and knelt on the ground. The king of my race would never be able to reach the peak again. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2716, Chapter 2716, Chapter 578, Ling Yun 9. Chapter 2716, Chapter 578, Lingyun 9. Transformations L. Blood Cavalry General's Residence. Su Yu punched out, causing the Blood Fire Devil King's Sea of Consciousness to collapse. Yes, the Sea of Consciousness collapsed. At the last moment, the Blood Fire Devil King's body and Sea of Consciousness fused as one. He also punched back at Su Yu. Dead. A peerless expert, Eternal Nine Dan, died just like that. Su Yu didn't know if he felt wronged or not, because the death of Shuehua was mainly caused by old Zhou, resulting in his death in the hands of a junior like Su Yu. At the last moment, Shuehua didn't leave anything behind for him, only a storage ring. At the start of the battle, he had left it with the Great Cauldron. Su Yu watched silently, watching as he disappeared from this world. After hesitating for a moment, he still took out the civilization will. This time, it wasn't purely to strengthen the civilization will. In fact, the other party didn't leave anything behind. Su Yu's punch almost blew up everything he had. Su Yu's civilization will moved out and gathered some remaining blood, willpower, and some aura. He considered it for a moment and decided to collect this person's corpse to record a few things. The Blood Fire Demon King, the second strongest expert of the demon race, the leader of the Blood Fire Demon race, died in battle today at the hands of Su Yu. Su Yu raised his hand and began to make some simple records on civilization. He could be considered a formidable figure. It was just that his luck wasn't too good, and his strength wasn't strong enough. He still had the boldness. This time, those who dared to enter were all sufficiently bold. They were willing to attempt the Tao merge for once. Su Yu silently recorded that in the void, the large law hand slapped towards Su Yu. At the same time, the heaven and earth rewards followed. No matter how heavily injured he was still a peerless expert of the Eternal Nine Dan. When the large law hand slapped over, it was still in the void, but it was somewhat dispersed by the impact of the cloud of rewards. The two cancelled each other out, and a large amount of law energy spread out. As for Su Yu, he had already expected this scene. He opened his mouth and spat. Pure rule power had some willpower. It was difficult to use it to kill or reward. However, once it was hit by the rule power of the heaven and earth rewards, it would be easily absorbed. This was also Su Yu's experience. It was a rare experience in the world. Rewards and punishments came at the same time. Very few people had encountered such a situation. As for Su Yu, he had already encountered it several times, including the punishment of the 5 elements divine art and the reward of advancing to the sky. In fact, it was also a conflict between two types of rule power. Unfortunately, Su Yu did not understand these things at that time. A large amount of rule power, a power that was superior to other powers, quickly merged into Su Yu's body. Su Yu could have advanced to the 9th change, but he chose to stop for the sake of Star Moon. And this time, the rule power was pushing his physical body to advance, which made Su Yu very helpless. Level up. If it didn't work, he would level up first. He would first satisfy himself and provide the energy that his young aperture needed. Unless he had no other choice, he couldn't absorb the power of Star Moon anymore. Once he reached the 9th change, he would absorb the power of Star Moon again. It would be fine for him to break out in a short time, but if it was a prolonged battle, Star Moon would be sucked to death. The current Star Moon probably couldn't hold on anymore. Su Yu sighed helplessly. L didn't want to either. Unfortunately, the heavens forced me to advance. Star Moon, don't blame me. Outside the door, Blue Sky, who was hanging on the wall, had a look of disdain on his face as he slid down. What he said, as expected, a shameless person was invincible in the world. This kid, Su Yu, was sick, shameless, evil, and black-hearted. This guy was sick to the point of being normal. Blue Sky felt that this guy seemed to be a level higher than him. As for Su Yu, he had started to advance to the 9th change. There was no other way. The heavens had forced me to advance. If I didn't advance, all these good things would be wasted. As for the little furball in his mind secretly sucking, Suyu couldn't be bothered. This fellow had at least led the way for him this time, so he could be considered as a guide. He should have given some benefits. At the same time, at the entrance of the 8th floor, Star Moon lay limply on the ground, looking up at the sky with a blank expression. This lord had been sucked dry. When will such days end? Even if I die, I won't be able to rest in peace. How long has it been? She remembered not too long ago. Back then, she had vowed to convert Suyu into a general under her command. It had only been a few days, and her current aura of death was already sufficient for the other party to suck dry for a while. Yet, it had already been sucked dry. Not too far away, in the passageway of the undead, some aura of death was surging toward her. However, Xingyue was no longer interested in absorbing it. She had no wish to die. Even being a dead soul could not bring peace. It was said that the dead souls were invincible, so who would be the one to die? Emotions were all lies. I want to return to the dead soul's world. Xingyu muttered, I want to return. It was so uncomfortable and stifling to be in this place. Suyu was getting stronger day by day, and she could no longer bear the violent absorption force of this fellow. Level. The world shook, and the great Qin king and the others felt it as well. At this moment, the great Qin dynasty looked at the sky and sighed. He said softly, this fellow, Shuehua, is a good opponent. He fought a few times in the past, and the reputation of the blood-fire demon race for being good at fighting originated from him. Unfortunately, his aptitude is a little lacking, and he has been stuck at Eternal 9 Dan and has been unable to advance for a long time. Race, individual, sometimes. Sigh. It was rare for him to sigh, and the great Qin king didn't say anything else. He had dealt with the blood-fire demon king before, and he had fought a few times. He was a rather proud person, and he had thought that this person would be able to escape. In the end, he had lost his life at Suyu's hands. The great Qin king was somewhat moved. Suyu. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2717, Chapter 2717, Chapter 578, Lingyun 9 Transformations 2. Chapter 2717, Chapter 578, Lingyun 9 Transformations 2. Killing Shuehua today might be the beginning of a new era. Shuehua was also a figure in the 9th tide. Shuehua's strength was not weak, but of course, he was not as strong as him. However, the last time he fought with the great Xia king, they were equally matched. It was only when he met the great Qin king that he was not strong enough. He was also crippled by old Zhou and died here. It was unknown whether this person's death was good or bad for the demon race. The demon emperor was somewhat afraid of him, so he had been suppressing the blood-fire demon race all these years. The blood-fire demon race was famous for being good at fighting, so it might not be that they were truly good at fighting and weren't afraid of death. However, if they didn't act as the vanguard for the sure demon race, would the demon emperor be able to tolerate them? This race was very strong. Within the demon race, there were many branches of the demon race that stood on the side of the blood-fire demon race. Now, they were all empty. The blood-fire demon race might be suppressed by the demon emperor, or even exploited even more, becoming a true cannon fodder vanguard. The human race might have to start a war with the blood-fire demon race. The blood-fire demon king was the same as him, gambling on this opportunity. The great Qin king wanted to fuse with the Tao and make the human race stand up. The blood-fire demon king was the same. He had no choice but to come. If he didn't come, the demon emperor would be afraid of him even if he was injured. Sooner or later, he would attack him. If he came, it would be extremely dangerous. If he went out, there might be trouble. If he died here, it might be a relief. Without him, the blood fire demon race might still have a chance of survival. The great Qin king thought silently and also thought of himself. If he died, what would the humans do? Beside him, the other people all had different expressions. Not long after, blood fire was killed. Not far away, September was eating. She glanced at the humans without batting an eyelid. Right now, only a few people knew about the great Qin king situation. September, sky devouring, Kong Kong Kong, the five elements race, and the fated race. They knew what the great Qin king situation was like. Xuehuo was dead, and the others were probably dead. Even if the head of the Sky Division wasn't dead, he was still mad. Even if he wasn't mad, he might not leak it out. After all, he was a human who had undergone the first tide change. It was impossible for the humans to leak it out, so they would become a thorn in the side of the humans. September looked simple-minded, but her brain wasn't stupid. A fool wouldn't be able to survive to this extent. As she ate, September was thinking about something. While she was still thinking, not far away, Kong 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 suddenly smiled and said, "Minister, the last time you asked me to take away the tombstone, I was plagued with trouble and never had the chance to return it to you. It just so happened that I almost forgot. I'll return this tombstone to you." After saying that, he took out a stone tablet. Kong 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 smiled and said, "I'll give it to you. I don't want it anymore." In fact, at this moment, he was suspecting that this one tombstone. *CK, was it real or fake? Forget it, regardless of whether it was real or fake, he realized that he couldn't make use of it. Who cares? I don't want it anymore. Blood and fire were killed. It was a very terrifying thing. Su Yu did it. This was inevitable. There was no other choice. Su Yu, this kid, held a grudge. He had a black heart and black hands. The one tombstone should be considered Su Yu's. Since he took it away, Su Yu didn't say anything. However, the dog that bit him didn't bark. If it was true, he would find trouble with him sooner or later. Instead of waiting for trouble, he wasn't sure if it was true or not. He should throw this hot potato out first. He directly threw a stone tablet over. Zhu Tianfang was stunned for a moment. Why didn't you give it to me before? Now, you gave it to me. There was no need to ask. He was probably scared. He was not scared of him, but of that kid Su Yu. He took the tombstone and did not bother to look at it. He threw it to Xiaolongu. As for Xiaolongu, he casually put it away and did not even look at it. Kong Kong Kong's gaze was a little strange. Xiaolongu could not be bothered to say anything. It was fake. If it was real, the 10,000 heavenly saints and the people from the southern borderless region would have long chased Kong 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 for thousands of miles. What was Kong 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 thinking about? His teacher couldn't possibly leave the real one to Kong Kong Kong. He didn't look at it, didn't bother to look at it, and didn't explain anything either. There were only a few people present. Just treat it as if the tombstone was with him. The next time someone wanted to snatch it, he could just throw it out. Kong 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 couldn't differentiate it, so the chances of others being able to differentiate it weren't high either. Kong Kong lowered his head. He was cursing in his heart. Damn it, it was really fake. Nonsense, it wasn't fake. Why did Xiaolongu not take it seriously? He was joking. So Su Yu told him that he wanted to teach him how to use it. The source was here. Everything was fake. What could he do if he taught him how to use it? Kong Kong was tired. The human race was cunning and treacherous. Damn it. None of them were good. To think that one had to take the blame for all of you until now. The key was that even if I gave it to them now, the outside world might not believe me. Perhaps they would think that I had it with me, and I would be too embarrassed to say that I had already given it to the human race. Who would believe me? Depressed. At the side, Huang Jiao suddenly said, Elder, can you verify your Tao now? Why don't we just do it here? Since there's still enough time, why don't we go out and verify our Tao? It'll be very troublesome. Why don't we take the 9-leafed heavenly lotus now and verify our Tao? Huang Jiao smiled innocently and said, Elder, His Majesty the Great Qin King and Manor Head Xia are here. They can take care of you when you verify your Tao. Xia Longwu glanced at her and said calmly, if you want to verify your Tao, we can protect you. It's not too dangerous. If you verify your Tao here, it's similar to the outside world. If you verify your Tao now, there's no danger. Now was probably the best time to verify his Tao. If the outside world could not enter, then most of the people inside would be dead. Of the remaining experts, the humans were the most powerful. If they wanted to verify their Tao without anything, then no one would stop them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2718, Chapter 2718, Chapter 578, Ling Yun's 9 Transformations 3. Chapter 2718, Chapter 578, Ling Yun's 9 Transformations 3. If it was on a normal day, the immortals would not let him off. In there, the immortals would not let him off either. There were at least 5 immortal kings. But now, the opportunity had come. At this moment, not only him, but also September and Sky Devouring were tempted. Were they trying to prove their Tao here? With the 9-leafed heavenly lotus in hand, it was actually very suitable to prove their Tao here. They could easily verify their Tao. What they were afraid of was the human race stopping them. The few of them had already verified their Tao and were very powerful. When Zhou Yue, Kong Kong, and the others verified their Tao, they were probably a level stronger than Qin Zhen. Their chances were about the same as Xia Longwu, who had directly stepped into Eternal for Dan. In terms of combat strength, the 5 of them were not weaker than Xia Longwu. If that was the case, Xia Longwu, Zhu Tianfang, and Qin Zhen would be neutralized by them. In addition, with the injured Great Qin King, they might not be able to match the Fated Clan and the 5 Elements Clan. The human race would be in danger. If they did not attain the Tao now, the human race would still have an advantage. The Great Qin King glanced at them and said calmly, if you want to attain the Tao, you can do it now. Zhou Polong shook his head and said, if you want to attain the Tao, Kong Kong can do it. As for Huang Jiao, we know the situation. There are some things that the human race owes. Kong can attain the Tao. As for the other 2, I suggest that you go out and attain the Tao. It's not that dangerous for Zhou Yue and the Sky Devouring clan to go out and attain the Tao. The Iron-Eating clan and the Ancient Ho clan both have half-emperors. Furthermore, they are an ancient race. Most large clans would not find trouble to stop them. Unless he wants to offend you, Master Kong has offended the Heavenly Ancient. He did not agree. The Great Qin King was the overlord of the human race, and he paid attention to his demeanor. He could agree, but as one of the unrivaled experts of the human race, he had to reject them. He could not place all of his hopes on the fact that these people were all good people. Once he succeeded in establishing his Tao, if he suddenly fell out with them, no one would be able to bear the consequences if anything happened to the Great Qin King. Even if they were killed, these people were not qualified to compete with the Great Qin King. The Great Qin King glanced at him and did not say anything. He knew everyone's thoughts. There were some things that he could not blindly do even if these people said it. From a personal point of view, he did not have any objections. However, the considerations of Zhou Piolong and the others were not without reason. Fortunately, September smiled foolishly and said, I have not attained the Tao so quickly. Let's wait a little longer. We will talk about it after I strengthen my 3 bodies. I am very dissatisfied with my current realm. I will consider the matter of attaining the Tao after I leave. On the other side, the ancient Ho sniffed the fragrance of the immortal corpses and quickly said, Me too. Kong 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 is the one who attained the Tao. This fellow is weak, but we are strong. There's no rush. Kong 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 was speechless. However, he did indeed need this opportunity. At this moment, he did not stand on ceremony, he cupped his hands towards the few humans and said, Then thank you very much. The main reason is that old fellow Tian Gu is too troublesome. Otherwise, my space beast race would not be afraid of anyone attaining the Tao. This was also true. The space beast race had attained the Tao, and you were going to surround and kill me? What a joke. If one instantly disappeared, would you be able to surround and kill me? There were too many people, so it was useless. The main point was that Tian Gu was too powerful, and the half-emperor of the space beast race didn't want to start a war with the Celestials for Kong Kong's sake, he could only let Kong Kong wait and see. The few of them didn't say anything. The great Qin King said, You can attain the Tao. Long Wu, Qin Zhen, you can also devour the 9-leaf sky lotus and try to quickly recover your 3 incarnations. There's still some time, and Su Yu has given you the vessel. Use it all. Soon, the great Qin King looked at Huang Jiao and said after a moment of silence, You should be of the Lu family's bloodline. I can already sense some familiar auras. Do you want to return to Lu City, or? Huang Jiao bowed slightly and said, Thank you, Your Majesty. There's no need. I still want to leave with the elders. Although Huang Jiao is a human, he has the heart of a spatial beast. I'll know that the humans are invincible. If you want to make up for it. There's no need. I haven't suffered since I was young. The elder is very good to me. If you really want to make up for it, you can make up for it to the rest of the Lu family. As for what happened to me, I hope that the seniors don't even tell Senior Lu Wenyan and the others about it, so as to avoid adding to the sadness. She turned her head to look at Kong 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 and revealed a smile, then she said, Moreover, Su Yu is afraid that I will enter the Lu family and cause trouble for the Lu family. You don't have to be so worried. This time, if the elders can verify the Tao, all the grudges will be written off. The Lu family doesn't owe me, and all of you don't owe me either. If one day, the elders and all of the human race are unrivaled enemies, all of you can also see me as a space beast. Kill me if you need to, no need to show mercy. Beside him, Kong Kong was not moved, only furious. He shouted, Little girl, what do you know? Nonsense. How could our space beast race have a human space beast? You are a human, not a space beast race. Nonsense. Young man, you don't know anything, yet you dare to spout nonsense. He cupped his hands and smiled at the invincible ones. This girl is too young, please forgive me. She is of the Lu family's bloodline. Of course, she has to acknowledge her ancestors, of course, she has a stubborn temper. There's no rush now. I'll teach her well. If there's time, let her go back to Lu City to take a look. He cursed inwardly. Stupid little girl. Your grandfather, I, even offended Tian Gu. Do you really think I can return to the space beast world? One day, you'll be killed by Tian Gu, and you'll have to return to the human race. Xia Longwu and the others didn't say anything. Xia Longwu glanced at Huang Jiao and didn't say anything. If he didn't lose this person, he would still be his daughter-in-law. He was kind and loyal. Unfortunately, since he didn't grow up in the human race, he didn't feel much sympathy for the human race. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2719, Chapter 2719, Chapter 578, Ling Yun's 9 Transformations. Chiu subscribe, 4. Chapter 2719, Chapter 578, Ling Yun's 9 Transformations. Chiu subscribe, 4. She couldn't be blamed for this. It could only be said that the destruction of the Lu family had caused a lot of grief. The group of people didn't say anything else. Those who needed to heal their injuries and those who needed to attain the Tao also began to prepare to attain the Tao. The invincible person from the Fated clan and the Five Elements clan also sat cross-legged and didn't say anything. At this moment it was best not to say anything. On the Five Elements clan side, the floating earth spirit suddenly said in the mind of the Five Elements clan's expert, elder, keep an eye on this woman. When someone kills her in the sky, bring her back to the Five Elements clan. TSK, no matter what, she can be considered as Su Yu's fellow disciple. The Five Elements clan's elder was speechless. His own genius didn't have any cards left. He didn't think about how powerful he was all day long. He only thought about how to hug her thigh. How could he hug her? With Su Yu's murderous nature, it was normal for him to cut you into 8 pieces if there was a disagreement. And this kid was too cowardly. Previously, when Su Yu was here, he didn't say a word and didn't come out. He just hid among his heavenly soldiers and didn't even say a word. Now that the great Qin King was here, how could he dare to speak? The floating earth spirit was a little afraid of Su Yu. How should he say it to the great Qin King? He would bully him to become stronger. Such an expert wouldn't bother with him. Su Yu was narrow-minded, strong, and young. Provoking Su Yu was still more terrifying than provoking the great Qin King. Su Yu didn't care about the commotion in the outside world or the 6th level. At this moment, his body shook. The 360 apertures were like a scorching sun. Rumble. The 9 changes of the body had officially begun. Not only that, under the 9 changes of the body, the Shanghai realm was the combination of the apertures. The 360 apertures had originally combined into 9, but now, once the 9 apertures combined, it was the Sun-Moon realm. When the 9 apertures started to merge, it was the Shanghai realm, stepping into the first level of the Shanghai realm. 9 becoming 8, that was the second level of the Shanghai realm. All the way until 3 turned into 2, that was the 8th level of the Shanghai realm. Turning into 1 aperture, that was the 9th level of the Shanghai realm. At the 9th level of the Shanghai realm, 1 aperture would open again. Once it opened to the shape of the waning moon, that would be the Sun-Moon realm. The combination of the mountains and seas was just like that. Combination of apertures. At this moment, as Su Yu completed the 9 transformations, he was thinking about whether he should use the heaven revolving technique to try the combination of apertures. He felt that it wasn't too difficult. The mountain and sea realm was actually just a transitional process. The process of merging his acupoints. He had long since calculated that after completing the 9 transformations, he might be able to directly step into the 9th level of the mountain and sea realm. However, stepping into the 9th level of the mountain and sea realm might not be of much help to his battle prowess. The process of merging his acupoints didn't have much of a transformation. Merging my acupoints is only to strengthen my acupoints in the later stages to prepare for stepping into the sun, moon, and invincibility. Whether it fits or not, it doesn't matter. Su Yu thought in his heart. His physical body shook once again, enjoying the service of the power of laws. It was very satisfying. This time, he didn't absorb the rewards. He only used the rewards to neutralize the power of laws. At this moment, he smoothly stepped into the 9 transformations. Boom! His chi and blood churned, his physical body shook, and ripples appeared in the air. At this moment, Su Yu was terrifyingly powerful. His body had officially stepped into the 9th transformation. The strength of more than 60 million apertures. Boom! His powerful body shook the air, and Su Yu himself felt that he was slightly out of control. He did not dare to use his young aperture at all. He still needed his young aperture to absorb the powerful strength, so as not to be too powerful. Incomparably powerful. Even if the young aperture's amplification is slightly less now, as long as it reaches 50% amplification, it will break through 100 million. Su Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. This was too powerful. This trip to the Starry Palace was simply giving him a chance. The key point was that he didn't dare to use his young aperture now. The young aperture still had to absorb his strength and weaken his battle prowess. Otherwise, if he were to count on absorbing the stars and moons would really not be able to hold on anymore. So, next, I have to look for the river map and find the location of the star map's teleportation. Otherwise, the yin and yang will not coordinate. The stronger 1 am, the more restricted I will be. As for the other treasures, Su Yu didn't care too much about them. I'll walk my own path. Treasures are things that I can take when I see them. It's fine if I don't see them. In any case, I won't be able to run away from this place. At worst, I'll come back again. Too strong. Su Yu sighed. This time, I've truly stepped into the ranks of the experts of the myriad realms. The only flaw is that I'm not proficient in the Tao of time, so my speed is a little slow. No matter how fast you ran, the other party was proficient in the power of space and time, so you wouldn't be able to hit the other party. Previously, the Bloodfire Demon King had verified this point. He had only displayed his quasi-invincible strength. If the other party really had the power of an eternal third stage, Su Yu would have probably exploded. When both sides fought, their attacks weren't in the same dimension. If you punched out, the other party would transfer your strength to the future or the past, and it wouldn't be able to harm the present, so what were you going to do? Therefore, we still have to consider the power of the laws. Divine text. Where was the space divine text? Where was the time divine text? Actually, the word slow could be used to replace the time divine text, but if the space divine text was really outlined, Su Yu would also be depressed. He had been looking forward to this since a long time ago, but in the end, he just couldn't outline it. There was no justice. The 30th space divine text, was it still not outlined? If it was still not outlined, he would beat Kong Kong. Cough cough, don't think about it, or else he would be afraid that he would not be able to hold it in. The spatial beasts definitely had a deep understanding of the Tao of space. Su Yu suppressed this thought. Very quickly, he took a step forward and picked up the storage ring left behind by the Bloodfire Devil King. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly threw it into the air. He said indifferently, "Madonna, the Bloodfire Devil King left this for you to fight to the death with the Devil Emperor." This is exactly what I said. I'll give this to you. Su Yu, am still a man of my word. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2720, Chapter 2720, Chapter 578, 9 Transformations of Lingyun 5. Chapter 2720, Chapter 578, 9 Transformations of Lingyun 5. The storage ring instantly disappeared into the air. On the 8th floor. In front of a mansion, Madwa had a complicated expression on his face. He looked at the storage ring that had flown to the entrance and sighed in his heart. Bloodfire Demon King. He had left it for himself. He was an original demon. Bloodfire Demon King. Madwa muttered and flew towards that direction. Sorry, Su Yu is too strong. I can only watch as you're killed. There's nothing I can do. I try my best to take care of the Bloodfire demons. Madwa's emotions were very complicated. This was also the time when he was extremely shocked. Su Yu was already so strong that he couldn't even catch up to him. Don't worry, I'll catch up. Definitely. Elsewhere on the 8th floor, the Long River of the Fated Clan and the second elder of the Heaven Hunting Pavilion were also shocked. Xuehuo was dead. He had died under Su Yu's hands. When this news spread out, it would shake the heavens. Su Yu would also be truly noticed by the heavens. He would not be an ordinary person, but those who were invincible and those half-emperors would officially treat Su Yu as their number one figure. He would no longer be a nobody who relied on the ancient city. Su Yu was an overlord-level powerhouse himself. Even though Xuehuo was heavily injured, Xuehuo who was heavily injured was not someone that anyone could kill. After encountering Su Yu, he was killed on the spot not long after. This news must be spread. The second elder of the Heaven Hunting Pavilion used the Heaven Hunting talent list time and time again to spread the news. He used a mask to spread the news. Unfortunately, the 8th floor did not shake, so it was difficult to spread the news. However, as long as the 8th floor shook slightly, he would be able to spread the news immediately. Su Yu had entered. Not only had he entered, he had even killed Xuehuo. If such news were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. At this moment, Su Yu did not care about all of this. Very quickly, he walked in front of the huge medicinal cauldron. Xuehuo Devil King had already removed the restriction. At this moment, Lan Tian also flew in and said bitterly, "Little Yu, did you know that you hit me just now?" Su Yu nodded. "L felt it. I'm sorry. I won't hit Senior next time. It was all an accident. Little Yu is so good." Su Yu shrugged. He was not so afraid now, nor did he have goosebumps anymore. Because now, if Lan Tian dared to approach him, he would shake him until he flew away, and knock him into a big pancake. Lan Tian only complained. The current Su Yu had just advanced, and his power was overflowing so much that even he felt fear. At this moment, Lan Tian also took a look at the medicinal cauldron. He took a deep breath and said, "It's been so many years, but this cauldron blood demon pill is still here. You really have a lot of luck. Once the blood fire demon king takes it first, he can definitely recover more than 60% of his injuries. At that time, it wouldn't be difficult to beat you now." Su Yu nodded. He admitted this. As long as he was a step late, the blood fire demon king might be able to break the restriction and take the pill to recover a portion of his strength. Killing Su Yu was indeed not difficult. Lan Tian looked at it for a while and coughed lightly. How about giving me one? You want this? Not me, Sky Sage needs it. He was injured quite badly last time. Don't tell me you think he's also a pervert like you. He has a lot of treasures and will recover in a few days. That's true. Last time, when the 10,000 Sky Sage killed Invincible, the divine runes were almost all exploded. His body was also heavily injured. His injuries were indeed not light. Is one pill enough? More or less. Lan Tian laughed and said, "Little Yu, are you agreeing?" Su Yu laughed and said, "It's a small matter. Since the manor head is injured, healing is more important." After saying this, he said, "Do you think these remaining 8 pills can help the Great Qin King recover from his injuries?" Difficult. But, in the past, the body can be strengthened. Not only can it be strengthened, it can also recover to its previous strength, which is close to the strength of an eternal 9 Dan. Lan Tian made a judgment and said, "It shouldn't be a big problem." In that case, if he obtains the Origin Convergence Saber, in fact, his strength will drop a little compared to before, and the decline won't be too great. Of course, the cost of saving his life will definitely be low. The greatest benefit of having 3 bodies as one is that he can die 3 times. Now, he can only die once. The Great Qin King can create 3 more bodies, but he will need at least 2 9-leaf lotuses, one to restore a 3rd body. However, the 9-leaf lotuses have all been destroyed. I think that there are very few treasures in the world that can help him recover, or he can learn from the Demon Emperor. Su Yu directly interrupted, "Then let him be single. Learn from the Demon Emperor, and his reputation will be destroyed in an instant. He would rather the Great Qin King not recover than to use such a method." If he really used such a method, Su Yu would have to settle the score with him. Lan Tian said faintly, "That's hard to say. Perhaps someone will voluntarily agree to do it. It's not like you don't know." Su Yu nodded and did not say anything else. This possibility existed. He did not care too much. Very quickly, he grabbed the medicinal cauldron with one hand. The medicinal cauldron, however, let out a humming sound and crashed into Su Yu. With a loud bang, Su Yu grabbed the medicinal cauldron with one hand and saw that on the medicinal cauldron, 140 golden patterns were flickering with light. Heavenly weapon. A top-tier heavenly weapon. It even had some self-awareness, and it was currently struggling crazily. Su Yu coldly harumphed. Suddenly, he took out one Mingji and looked at the blue sky. He immediately sucked in a breath and said, "Don't, this is a top-tier heavenly weapon. The Great Qin King and the others are qualified to use this thing. Just the Great Qin King's spear might not be as powerful as this. This was originally used by a general. It might have been used by an eternal 9-dan expert. Now, it had been forged by earth fire for 100,000 years. It was extremely powerful." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2721, Chapter 2721, Chapter 578 Ling Yun's 9 Transformations. Chiu subscribe, 6. Chapter 2721, Chapter 578 Ling Yun's 9 Transformations. Chiu subscribe, 6. Was Su Yu going to destroy this cauldron? Su Yu smiled and said, "Disobedient weapons, there's no point in keeping them." Back then, when one Mingji was disobedient, one was already prepared to give up on them. How can weapons be the host? A good weapon is only a good weapon if you use it well. If you don't use it well, no matter how strong the weapon is, it will still be a disaster. Madman. Once again, because Blue Sky was not crazy enough and abnormal enough, he felt that he did not fit in with Su Yu. F***CKU. This cauldron is really a good thing. Don't be like this. He was not an alchemist, otherwise, he would be crying crazily right now. This might be the strongest medicinal cauldron in the world. And that big cauldron seemed to have sensed Su Yu's thoughts at this moment. It seemed to have sensed that Su Yu wanted to destroy it and feed it to the book next to him. Suddenly, it began to tremble and quickly became smaller. It was crystal clear and small and exquisite. It seemed to be trying to please Su Yu. Su Yu was stunned for a moment and suddenly said coldly, "This is not good. A weapon can actually understand its owner's intentions. This thing can't be taken, it has to be destroyed. Why is this brain of yours different from others?" Blue Sky was powerless to ridicule. The cauldron resisted, "You have to destroy it. The other party has submitted, yet you still want to destroy it. In this day and age, it is difficult to even be a weapon." On the other hand, civilized Wu was obediently floating in the air at this moment. Its master was very irritable. Don't provoke him. No matter how good a weapon was, its master would still dare to destroy it. If it couldn't be used, he would destroy it. Just as Su Yu was about to make a move, he suddenly moved slightly and picked up the cauldron to take a look. He muttered, "Ancient heavenly weapon, how about giving it to Teacher Zhao?" Previously, he had obtained an ancient weapon forging technique. In addition to this ancient pinnacle heavenly weapon, how about giving it to old Zhao? Su Yu rubbed his chin. Needless to say, it was really suitable. What a good item. Even if old Zhao didn't want it, he could still give it to old Lu. If there was nothing else, old Lu could use it to curry favor with one of the three great mistress, Wu Yuehua. That was a genuine alchemist. To an alchemist, this thing was the most precious treasure of all. Without further thought, Su Yu opened the medicinal cauldron. Suddenly, an intense fragrance gushed over. The 9 medicinal pills wanted to fly, but they were grabbed by Su Yu. He quickly grabbed one and sealed it in a jade box. He threw it to Ian Tian and asked, "Do you still want it? The principal wants one to heal his injuries. What about you?" Lan Tian smiled faintly and said, "Don't want it. I just want some corpses. Just don't snatch corpses from me next time. In the myriad realms, the two of us are in the same line of work. If we are in the same line of work, we are enemies. The next time I go out to kill someone, just don't come with me." The two of them were really in the same line of work. Su Yu was also speechless. Indeed, if there were corpses, he wanted them, and so did Lan Tian. He had merged with civilization, and Lan Tian had directly refined them into clones. It was indeed not suitable for them to move together, and it was easy for conflicts to occur. "Alright, we won't go together next time." Su Yu took the treasure and quickly walked out of the door. In the air, the power of law seemed to be trying to condense. Su Yu did not even look at it. This was just the outer area. He directly walked out. Lan Tian was stunned for a moment. "Where are you going?" "I'm leaving. I need to leave this place as soon as possible. I need to return to the myriad realms." Lan Tian was stunned. "You? Are you serious?" Su Yu didn't even turn his head. "Now, knowing all the secrets is useless to me. Getting all the benefits is useless to me. I need to leave this place quickly before the Starry Manor is officially closed. One need to return through the necropolis and try to return within 10 days. I need to return early, an ambush. Perhaps I can kill a group of people." Su Yu chuckled. "Senior can stay here for a few days and wait for the last moment to leave. I can't do that. I have to leave early. When they think I'm inside, I'll *King kill them from behind." Su Yu smiled. Treasures move people's hearts. Unfortunately, one don't care. This place will belong to me sooner or later. Will come sooner or later, but not now, including the so-called Realm Palace. I will enter this place sooner or later, or even the 9th floor. This place is very secretive. Now that I know, what's the use?" Su Yu looked at the sky. That person guarding the door might be a living person, an ancient big shot, but I think there might be rules and restrictions. Su Yu smiled. Humans are afraid of greed. I've already obtained everything that I should have. I have to leave. Otherwise, if I wait until the last moment before leaving, I'm afraid that my nest will be gone. Yes, he was leaving. He had already obtained all the benefits. Now, he had to go to the dead spirit world, find the river map, find that place, and obtain the final benefits. Everything would be perfect. The thing was here, and it couldn't run away. After 100,000 years, what could be taken away, others had taken away. What couldn't be taken away, would be mine sooner or later. Behind him, Lan Tian was a little surprised and shocked. After a long while, he muttered, "Su Yu. You didn't succeed. There's no reason." Su Yu's strength had increased, and his authority was also high. In the end, he had only killed Shuehua and was about to leave. Su Yu was very greedy, but he was not greedy. Greed was different from greed. Su Yu smiled and said, "Senior, this thing, the benevolent see the benevolent, the wise see the wise. Perhaps some people think that I'm timid, but it doesn't matter. I'll leave first. If Senior likes to play here more, Changhe can't do anything to you. Don't say that I'm leaving." As he finished speaking, Su Yu had already returned to the entrance. "Leave." Xing Yu was probably anxious from waiting, so she quickly brought her back to the dead soul's realm. She didn't want to use the teleportation channel anymore, so she decided to use the undead channel instead. Now that Su Yu was powerful, she had more confidence. "With my strength, I can kill an ordinary undead sovereign with a single punch." Su Yu tore through the void and directly left the 8th floor. He left cleanly and without any hesitation. The blue sky was on the 8th floor. If the others didn't know that he had left, they probably wouldn't even have time to hide from him. How would they dare to provoke the humans? It was more like they were courting death. Therefore, he was very relieved. Even if Lu Wenyan and Hong Tan didn't leave, he wasn't that worried. It was fine. Everyone had their own fate. If he left, these people might still have their own fate. The moment he tore through the air and left, a shadow appeared in the reception hall on the 8th floor. It looked at Su Yu's back as he left. After a long while, a strange look appeared in its eyes and it disappeared from where it was. A guy with level 4 authority did not hesitate to leave after killing his enemy. With such a decisive character, if he did not die, he would achieve great things sooner or later. Human. What a terrifying little guy. 7th floor. Xingyue thought that Su Yu would take a long time to come out and was still lying on the ground. When she sensed Su Yu approaching, she instantly jumped up. And Su Yu was already in front of her. Xingyue's face was filled with anger. You, damn it. Look at me lying on the ground. Su Yu smiled and said, Great Sovereign, let's go. First, we'll make a trip to the 6th level. We'll find the Great Qin King and deliver some things. Then, we'll take the undead passageway and bring this subordinate to your country to take a look. Xingyue looked at him coldly. Su Yu, don't be so arrogant. Su Yu's face was full of kindness and holy light flooded out. Great Sovereign, this subordinate understands. Xingyue was a little dazed. This person in front of her looked so pleasing to the eye. Just like that, she followed Su Yu to the entrance of the 7th floor. Along the way, she was thinking, why does Su Yu look so kind? Am I being too fierce to him? He's a good person. Xingyue thought to herself silently. Yes, a good person. If he's not a good person, where does he get such a close feeling from? Su Yu, on the other hand, had a calm expression on his face as he walked ahead. This set of moves was not that difficult to deal with Xingyue. P.S. I'm begging for a monthly ticket. There are too few monthly tickets. How boring would it be to be the second brother? Charge. The Xingyu residence would come again. He had already taken everything that he needed. There was no need to delve into the 8th or 9th level at this stage. Any more benefits would be useless to Su Yu. He had to open his Yin aperture. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2722, Chapter 2722, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead L. Chapter 2722, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead L. There was no one on the 7th floor at the moment. Su Yu did not plan to shout for the people inside the barrier. Yun Chen was there. He would come out when it was time to come out. Now, other than the unstable factor of old Zhou, everything was still considered safe. Once he came out, he still had to be careful of the undead walking out of the undead passageway. Once this place regained its peace, if there was no law to suppress it, in the future, the 7th floor would be the undead paradise. However, there's a high probability that I won't be able to go to the 8th floor. There's a gatekeeper there. Su Yu thought in his heart. Very soon, he arrived at the entrance to the 7th floor. He tore open the passageway once again and flew towards the 6th floor. Tearing open the passageway required strength, and Su Yu's current strength was clearly sufficient. The 6th floor. When Su Yu tore open the passageway and walked out, the group of people who were recuperating looked towards the entrance with some vigilance. Who came? Soon, they saw Su Yu, who was dressed in snow-white clothes, and also saw the star moon that was boiling with the aura of death. Some people felt strange in their hearts. Su Yu and this undead had a pretty good relationship. The other undead had all left, but this one was still here. This was the Star Moon Sovereign who had transformed Suyu. Since when did living and dead people get along so well? Zhu Tianfang flew through the air and landed in front of Suyu. He smiled and said, "Shuehua is dead." Suyu smiled and cupped his hands. He died rather cleanly. According to this, the person from the Sky Division might not be dead, but the 7th level was not discovered, and the 8th level did not seem to be either. I don't know if he entered the dead soul world or disappeared from the time passageway. In short, he won't be able to return to the myriad realms for a while. No matter where he went, it wouldn't be so easy to return to the 10,000 worlds. This was especially so for the dead soul world. Unless he took the ancient city passageway, the most important thing was that Suyu had to agree. If Suyu didn't agree, where would he go? Suyu didn't say much and quickly flew towards the Great Qin King. The Great Qin King sat cross-legged at this moment and opened his eyes to look at Suyu. Suyu didn't say much and took out the medicinal cauldron. He opened it and the 8 medicinal pills quickly flew out once more. The rich medicinal fragrance caused all the experts to be unable to help but look at the medicinal pills. The Great Qin King's eyes moved slightly. Suyu smiled and said, "Consider it as a gift to the backbone of the human race." The 8 medicinal pills should be enough for His Majesty, the Qin King, to recover quite a bit in this lifetime. He might even be able to recover to stage 9. If he had the help of the Origin Convergence Saber, he might not be much weaker than before. The only thing missing were 2 chances to revive. After saying this, Suyu continued, "I hope that your Majesty Qin Wang doesn't learn from the Demon Emperor. Before Shuehua died, he told me that the rise of any race and the rise of any expert would not place their hopes on the foundation of sacrificing the next generation. Even the demon race understands the logic. I believe that your Majesty Qin Wang also understands." Suyu took out the 8 pills, sealed them, and handed them to the Great Qin King. He bowed slightly and said, "This can be considered as me, Suyu, giving some of my strength to this race. I hope that these treasures can be used on this race and not on an individual." Race, individual. The Great Qin King was an individual, but he also represented the race. Suyu's meaning was very clear. You represented the race, and this was something that I gave to you to protect the human race. If you forget your original intention, you don't have the right to take this treasure. The Great Qin King looked at him silently. A moment later, he took the pill and said calmly, "Don't worry." Suyu didn't say anything more and turned to leave. At that moment, the void trembled, and Suyu instantly turned his head. This time, Suyu's eyes slightly moved. In the distance, an incomparably huge ancient beast appeared. Its body was somewhat translucent. Kong 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 rarely revealed his true form, but at this moment, Suyu recognized him at a glance. This was Kong Kong, a member of the ancient spatial beast clan. He was about to attain Tao. Suyu was surprised, but he quickly understood. He saw Huang Jiu near Kong Kong and was very anxious. Huang Jiu didn't care that Suyu had come. Suyu could understand, but he didn't take it seriously. It was better to nurture kindness than to give it to others. In Huang Jiu's heart, among the myriad clans in the heavens, no one, including the Lu family, was better than Kong Kong. This was because Kong Kong was very good to her. Suyu did not care too much. He looked at Kong Kong, who was in the middle of Tao verification in the void. At this moment, he did not leave. Instead, he wanted to see if the ancient spatial beast clan's Tao verification would be of any help to him in comprehending the spatial divine text. In the void, an enormous river of time appeared. An incomparably huge ancient spatial beast walked out from the river of time. It seemed to be the future body, and it looked very powerful. It fused with the future first, and the future body instantly fused with Kong Kong's original body. Kong Kong's huge eyes carried a solemnness. In the next moment, an incomparably powerful force appeared. Another figure walked out from the river of time. This figure was different from before. It was very powerful. The immortal chi was extremely dense. One could feel the immortal chi spreading from a great distance away. It was not just the immortal chi. There was also an incomparably dense heaven yuan chi. At this moment, everyone understood. This past body had used a coffin board. Tian Gu's coffin board could be considered a treasure at the peak of heaven-grade weapons. Moreover, Tian Gu had used it for many years and still had Dao reserves. At this moment, Suyu was a little curious and asked, how did he steal Tian Gu's coffin board? Did Tian Gu not bring it with him? This was a very strange situation. Beside him, the great Qin king looked at Kong. He said, it has something to do with the humans. Back then, I went to the immortal realm with a few people to investigate the situation and alerted Tian Gu. Tian Gu was cultivating and stopped halfway to search for us all over the world. Kong seized the opportunity and barged into Tian Gu's lair, snatching his coffin. As for the coffin, Tian Gu refined it, so he did not take it. As for the coffin lid, Tian Gu did not refine it alone because it was a matching item. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 27-23, Chapter 27-23, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead 2. Chapter 27-23, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead 2. Suyu had to admit that Kong was very bold. His timing was also very good. Suyu said again, His Majesty the Qin King has been to the immortal world and has investigated the situation. He has even seized the Heaven Origin ancient tree. In my opinion, the immortal world might have the most ancient artifacts, but is the Heaven Origin ancient tree the oldest? It's hard to say. The great Qin King said in a deep voice, in the immortal realm, there haven't been many battles over the years. The gods, demons, humans, and dragons all suffered losses, but the immortal race suffered the least. If it weren't for the fact that they killed many immortal kings this time, the immortal race wouldn't have fallen for more than 400 years. As for the previous title changes, there should still be some ancient artifacts from the immortal race alive. Then, he said, the human race's failure in the last title change might have something to do with the immortal race. Suyu asked, how much does His Majesty know about the previous title changes? The great Qin King was silent for a moment before suddenly blocking his surroundings. He said, not much. The only thing I know is that no matter how strong the human race is, no matter how fast they rise up, in the end, it is the human race that has failed. Either they retreat, or they are destroyed. There are no exceptions. There are 9 title changes, and there are countless human experts, but none of them can change this outcome. The waters of the myriad worlds are deeper than what we can see. He looked at Suyu. I've read some records about the last title change. The human race is very strong. The 9th title change might be the strongest one the human race has ever had, or it could be said that it's only second to the first title change. 9 is the limit. The last title change should have been either a great victory or a great defeat for the human race. It would have been very difficult for the next title change to happen. In the end, the 9th tide flow was only halfway through when an accident happened. At that time, the human king was killed, and the human race was defeated. Suyu nodded. You mean that at the last moment of every tide flow, there is a force suppressing the human race, preventing the human race from rising again? That's right. The great Qin King said in a deep voice, it might be some ancient experts, or something else, or it might be related to the ancient parliament. However, the human race hasn't been wiped out yet. It's obvious that the human race has some tricks up their sleeves. The 9 title changes have failed. This time, I don't know if the human race will be able to hold on, or end it, or wait until the next title change. After saying this, he said, "You can ask those old antiques in the ancient city. They might know something." Suyu nodded and didn't say anything else. He silently looked at the empty space in the air and verified his Tao. To attain Tao, it was not difficult for three bodies to attain Tao. However, it also depended on luck and luck. If one's luck was not good, the three bodies would not be able to become one, so there was no way to attain Tao. At this moment, Kong's three bodies were rapidly fusing together. Suyu could feel that his current body must have consumed the nine-leaf sky lotus to strengthen his body, barely allowing his three bodies to reach a balanced state. Originally, Kong's body should have been the strongest in the past, and his future body was secondary. His current body was the weakest, and both the past and future had reached the level of invincibility. Only his current body remained at the quasi-invincibility stage. Now, with the help of the nine-leafed heavenly lotus, his three bodies had barely reached the level of invincibility. The three bodies began to fuse together, and space itself began to fluctuate in the void. The Tao of this race had a lot to do with space. Suyu watched silently sensing. Suyu did not have much understanding of the Tao of space, but he had been learning and comprehending. At this moment, he was not the only one. Zhu Tianfang also had another person by his side, Hu Xiansheng. This expert of the Tao of space was also looking at Kong with a burning gaze. Beside him, the spatial fluctuations were obvious. Suyu's heart stirred slightly. He looked at Kong while observing Hu Xiansheng. At this moment, Hu Xiansheng was also immersed in a state of comprehension. His palm continuously moved, and with a light tap, the entire space began to fluctuate. One had to know that this place could support an invincible battle. It was slightly difficult for an invincible person to tear through space. Hu Xiansheng had just entered the sun and moon not long ago and was only at the second level of the sun and moon. However, with a light tap, he was able to cause the entire space to fluctuate. This level of spatial attainments was already extremely deep. Space. Travel, point to point, another dimension. Suyu had once had a divine text that involved a little bit of space. It was a beast-type divine text. Of course, it only formed a small beast-type space, and not a real space-type divine text. However, he still had some knowledge of these things, including the fact that Suyu had previously cut through space and felt these things. As he observed the unity of space and space, he looked at Hu Xiansheng. Hu Xiansheng seemed to have sensed that Suyu was looking at him. His originally extremely fast speed slowed down a little, allowing Suyu to see more clearly. Space was like mud in his hands. Hu Xiansheng continued to fiddle with space, casually making things up. Soon, a small black hole in space appeared, and a suction force was transmitted. Hu Xiansheng pierced through the black hole with one hand, and suddenly, his arm appeared 100 meters away. Point-to-point piercing. The Tao of space is not difficult at all. Outside of the space we are in, there are dimensions of different dimensions. This is the origin of the mystic realm. Storage rings, mystic realms, teleportation arrays, teleportation portals. These things all involve the domain of space. Even your book has a large amount of space compression. In fact, our instant disappearance and reappearance is to enter another dimension and compress the space. For example, your book's page, 1,000 meters of space. I compressed it to 1 meter in an instant, and I can step out in 1 step. Based on this foundation, I can extend it to 10,000 meters. If I compress it to 1 meter, I can also instantly appear 10,000 meters away. Therefore, the Tao of space is related to the Tao of teleportation. How far you can teleport depends on your strength. This is to compress the space within another dimension. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 27-24, Chapter 27-24, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead 3. Chapter 27-24, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead 3. To put it more colloquially, our space travel is to bend a steel bar. When a normal person walks, a 1,000-meter-long steel bar is straight. If you walk from one end to the other, you have to walk 1,000 meters. What we need to do is to bend the steel bar into a circle. When the two ends touch, one instantly go from one end to the other. Hu Xianqing was explaining to Suyu he knew that Suyu had always wanted to sketch out the space divine text, but he had failed. This time, he might be able to gain some insights. Because emptiness was the Tao. And emptiness was not slow in the Tao. He had always been able to achieve the Tao because the three bodies were not balanced. At this moment, with the three bodies combined into one, their strength was similar, so his fusion speed was very fast. In the void, space was constantly fluctuating, providing Suyu with an opportunity. Suyu ignited his inheritance flame, continuously comprehending something. He might not be very proficient in this Tao. In the past, he had always been able to sketch divine texts very quickly, but this time, the difficulty wasn't small. After an unknown amount of time, Kong 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 roared, and a muffled sound reverberated through the heavens and earth. Boom! A cloud appeared in the sky. It was a reward for a genius and expert like Kong Kong Kong, and it was also a law related to space. At this moment, the space in Suyu's eyes began to contract violently. Soon, it exploded, then contracted, then exploded. In the sea of will, a divine symbol slowly began to take shape. The 30th divine symbol appeared at this moment. Faint spatial fluctuations also appeared around Suyu. In his mind, the formation of that divine text was somewhat difficult. A moment later, a divine text appeared. Pierce. It wasn't empty, nor was it anything else. It was piercing, piercing through. Suyu's body moved. It wasn't that he was too fast, but that he had truly disappeared. After a while, he reappeared from more than 10 meters away. Hu Xianqing's eyes flickered. Too slow, too short. Suyu nodded. The traveling speed was too slow, and the traveling distance was too short. To an expert, a distance of more than 10 meters was no different from not moving at all. However, this was a good start. Suyu was elated. If the Tao of space became stronger, first, an extremely troublesome problem would be solved. The problem of being beaten passively would be solved. At the very least, if the Tao of space became stronger, he would be able to avoid it when dealing with an invincible opponent, he would be able to attack and keep up. Of course, the other party still had the power of time. This problem was also very serious, but it had nothing to do with speed. At the very most, Suyu could just run away. He wouldn't appear again. If the other party punched him 100 times, Suyu wouldn't be able to retaliate even with a single punch. Too weak. Only at Tier 2. Tier 2 divine inscriptions were too weak. Tier 2 divine inscriptions were only at the soaring realm. They were too weak. If he wanted to be invincible, he would need at least Tier 5 divine inscriptions. Where, slow. These two divine runes needed to become stronger. Traveling through space would slow down the opponent's speed and stop time. In fact, the slow-type divine runes had some time power, which he had comprehended from the time cultivation technique of the Silkworm Exterminating King. If these two divine runes became stronger, they would be able to solve one of Suyu's biggest weaknesses. My willpower isn't strong enough. If my willpower advances to the mountain and sea realm, perhaps it will be able to help my divine runes advance. So, I have to open my yin aperture. Suyu's thoughts rose one after another, and his heart was filled with joy. I had wanted to kill Kong Kong to show me how to comprehend the power of space, but I hadn't expected that my luck would be so good that I actually took the initiative to comprehend it. He glanced at Kong Kong. Kong 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 was almost done with his Tao attainment, but it would still take some time for him to completely transform. Su Yu didn't say anything more or look at him. He bowed slightly to Hu Xiansheng and quickly disappeared from the spot. He shuttled all the way. Each time, it was only 10 meters. But very quickly, it became 30 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. Su Yu did not continue to increase the distance until he traveled a few hundred meters at a time. Instead, he continued to travel, and his willpower was constantly being consumed. However, he was extremely happy and continued to travel all the way to the entrance of the 7th floor. The group of people just looked at him, disappearing bit by bit and reappearing bit by bit. After a long while, Zhou Pelong softly said, "Monster." This was truly a monster. The comprehension of the innate divine text was as simple as drinking water. The Tao of space was not a big deal at the moment. It was only a few hundred meters. Some monsters were not even this big. With a slap, there was no difference between teleporting and not teleporting. However, this was only the beginning. Hu Xiansheng nodded slightly. He has a big advantage. Teleporting requires a strong physical body to resist the tearing force in space. His physical body is strong, and his divine text has improved. He doesn't need to worry about how far he can travel. Unlike me, whose physical body is a little weaker. If his divine text is the same as mine, he can travel 10,000 miles in an instant. One can only travel 10 miles. This is the difference. After saying this, he asked, "How strong is his physical body now?" Before this, Su Yu seemed to be invincible. However, after devouring his blood essence, his physical body might not be invincible, and he was almost invincible. What about now? Zhou Pelong and the others did not say anything. The great Qin king looked in the direction Su Yu had left and did not say anything. Just how strong was his physical body? If it was very strong, then that was right. Su Yu had not been that familiar with his control of power, and some of his power had leaked out. The great Qin king sensed that he probably had the power of a middle-stage eternal body. Around stage 5? Probably. A third-stage eternal body would have around 40 million apertures. A fourth-stage eternal body would have around 50 million apertures. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2725, Chapter 2725, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead 4. Chapter 2725, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Dead 4. As for Su Yu, the feeling he had just given him was that he was even stronger than Xia Longwu's physical body. Currently, he was unrivaled in the path of the warrior. Using the pumver of his acupuncture points to measure it was not a big problem. Apart from the power of time, he was fast and unrivaled. He did not have much of an advantage over Su Yu. What a terrifying brat. The great Qin king thought to himself as he looked at the 8 pills in his hand. They were all extremely powerful pills. He didn't say anything and directly consumed 1 pill. With a rumble, his qi and blood surged, and his body gave off a golden light. The great Qin king silently felt that these were very powerful pills. He didn't need 8 pills. At most 5 pills, he could restore his past body to its peak state. However, his past body was slightly weaker than the present and the future. At its peak, he would only be at the initial stage of Eternal 9 Dan. However, his past body was better than his past body. At the very least, he would look younger. The great Qin king laughed in his heart. He was currently subduing and refining the Origin Convergence Saber. Once he restored it to the initial stage of Eternal 9 Dan, with the Origin Convergence Saber, it wouldn't be much weaker than before. The Origin Convergence Saber might be more suitable for the great Xia king. However, this item was after all an outsider's and not his. The great Xia king should just follow his own path. As the great Qin king thought about this, he once again looked at Su Yu's departing figure. That fellow sometimes made people feel that he was astonishingly magnanimous. These precious medicines could be treated as treasures for anyone and left for their loved ones, they would be left for the next generation. The 8th level. The 8th level contained both fortune and danger. What the blood fire encountered was danger, and the fortune was with Su Yu. He had probably killed the blood fire to obtain it, and Su Yu had risked his life to obtain it. Don't worry, I can still hold on for a while. The great Qin king said silently. Right now, the human race still needed a flag. Su Yu wasn't enough yet, and at the very least, he couldn't suppress everything. Moreover, even if he could, now was not the time. Every generation's human king was in danger. At the very least, he had to wait for him to draw out these dangers. Boom! The great Qin king's aura exploded, and it was incomparably powerful. A long blade appeared in his hand, and it sliced through the void slightly, shattering it. On the side, Zhu Tianfang and the others were overjoyed. Not far away, the 5 elements race and fated race's invincible took in a deep breath. This human race's luck was astonishingly good. The great Qin king was so heavily injured. If it was anyone else, they would have been lucky if they did not die. The great Qin king was fine. No, Su Yu was fine. He threw treasures out one after another, reversing the situation of the great Qin king losing 3 bodies and 2 bodies. As such, the great Qin king's battle strength was also limited. The great Qin king had revealed his strength in front of them and revealed the origin returning blade. Actually, the others knew what he meant. Whether they said it or not did not affect him that much. Weighing the pros and cons, perhaps not saying it was the best choice. The 5 elements race expert quickly smiled and said, "Congratulations, great Qin king. Your strength has recovered and you have risen to a higher level." "Congratulations, we understand what you mean." The great Qin king forced a smile and said stiffly, "It's all right, thank you." "One don't dare." The few of them smiled as they thought about what Su Yu had said before once he left, he would only say that he, Su Yu, had done everything. He was not afraid of revenge. Anyone who wanted to take revenge on him could come at him. On the 7th floor. Xingyue followed Su Yu and asked curiously, "Why did you give the precious medicine to the great Qin king? Even if that thing cannot raise your realm, when you are heavily injured, one pill can heal all your injuries." Su Yu lightly smiled and said, "It's all for the sake of the Lord. I cannot continue to be strong, so for the Lord's sake, I have to give the treasure to someone else. Otherwise, I won't be able to resist and forcefully raise myself." Xingyu looked at him suspiciously, not quite believing him. Su Yu smiled, "Sir, let's not talk about this anymore. I see that your strength seems to be a little weak. Sir, when an undead raises its strength, does it only need to devour a large amount of death aura?" "No." Xingyu said stiffly, "The death aura is only one part of it. There's also the undead mark. In addition, you still need to enter the undead heavenly river." "Is that so?" Su Yu smiled and said, "Sir, is the world of the undead dangerous?" "Dangerous. Then, will it be dangerous for me to turn into your subordinate?" As soon as he finished speaking, the aura of life on Su Yu's body gradually dissipated. Very quickly, he turned into an undead and asked, "Sir, can you tell that I'm a living person from this?" Xingyu glanced at him and shook her head. "No, but..." She pointed at Su Yu's heart. "Then. There's blood qi, the dead spirit no longer has blood qi. There's only death qi. You can seal the heart, but after you seal it, your strength should drop a little." The heart was the transit point for the supply of blood qi. Su Yu nodded. After sealing the heart, his strength would indeed drop a little. It was fine. The seal was done. When the seal was unsealed, whoever saw it would be killed. Killing the spirits to silence them was not a big deal. Entering the world of the dead spirit and not pretending to be a dead spirit was courting death. Very quickly, Su Yu's body changed. His entire body was black and his heart had stopped beating. He thought for a moment and a cape appeared on his body. He originally wanted to make it white, but after thinking for a moment, he gave up on this flashy idea and made it black. At this moment, Su Yu was wearing a black cape. Beside him, Xingyue's cape was red. She glanced at Su Yu and felt a little strange. Why are you copying? Su Yu ignored her and continued to adjust. Soon, the book in his hand turned into a magic staff and smiled. Sir, do I look like a necromancer? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 27-26, Chapter 27-26, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Undead 5. Chapter 27-26, Chapter 579 Entering the World of the Undead 5. Xing Yu couldn't be bothered with him. At this moment, the two of them had reached the entrance of the undead passageway on the 7th floor. Prince Gong's residence had already disappeared, and the undead passageway was cold and empty. There was a faint power of law gathering around them. Su Yu made a judgment, shaking his head, he said, if no one interferes, this bit of power of law won't be able to stop the sovereign of the undead. This place will soon turn into the kingdom of the undead. However, after I leave, my lord, don't come here. This place is very dangerous. It's not just that powerful existence. The 8th floor is a little dangerous. In addition, it opens once every 10 years. However, every time someone stays here, they will be finished. Therefore, I guess that during the time when it's closed, someone will come and clean up the Starry Sky Mansion. Clean up? Starry Moon asked in puzzlement, what clean up? Su Yu smiled and said, it's just like cleaning up trash. Outsiders, if they stay here after that time, they will be trash. Of course, the trash will be cleaned. As he said that, he glanced at the entrance on the 8th floor. At this moment, the entrance had already appeared. Su Yu raised his eyebrows, he transmitted his voice and said, the entrance on the 8th floor will be closed when it's dangerous. It will appear when there's no danger. With such flexibility, it's very difficult for the rules to do so. Only the living and the living rules, such as the existence of Lord Xinghong and the others, can be adjusted in time. Since there were ancient existences like stone sculptures in the ancient city, it was not strange that there were also such existences here. Xing Yu was not very interested in this. At this moment, she looked at the entrance of the undead and was a little puzzled. Are they all dead? Many undead lords had come. There were already quite a number of them here, but later on, many invincible ones had died. Every death brought a lord. At the last moment, there were probably close to 30 undead lords. Were they dead? They were still alive, but they didn't dare to come here anymore. They're definitely not all dead. Some of them were definitely dead, but old Zhou hadn't killed his way into the undead realm, so there were definitely some sovereigns that had escaped. After entering, there was still danger. Su Yu quickly said, after entering, Sir said that I'm a quasi-unrivaled undead that you've transformed into. Alright. Xingyue didn't say much, and Su Yu continued, is this place very far from Xinghong ancient city? It's fine. After crossing 32 undead sovereign kingdoms, it will be my kingdom. Star Moon suddenly became a little proud. My kingdom is also very powerful. Su Yu nodded perfunctorily. Who was he kidding? It's also very powerful. Do I believe it? Last time, when the flame demons attacked, your kingdom was useless. The key was, 32, you're really good. How did you come? Did you encounter any danger when my lord came? Not bad. Star Moon said proudly, I'm powerful, but one only used the path. Those weaklings don't dare to stop me. Is that so? There would be a few big battles. After asking about the situation in the dead soul realm, Suyu took a deep breath and walked towards the undead passageway. It was time to take a look. At the very least, he had to find He too. If he didn't find He too, Suyu wouldn't know where the teleportation formation was. If he couldn't find He too, he could look for Dummy. Who knew if Dummy was dead? Suyu wasn't sure. Also, this person should be very familiar with the great Qin King. He might be this tide's human expert. After eating the fruit of life and death, he might have regained some of his humanity. Another point was that if he found He too, they could discuss how to convert the undead into living beings. Right now, the moon and stars wouldn't be of much help to him. Should he help him convert the moon and stars? However, Suyu knew that this was very dangerous. In the past, he too had also been able to convert the moon and stars, but he had never seen him do so before. Before he died, he too was already at Eternal 9 Dan, and he wasn't any weaker than him. He hadn't even been able to convert any undead sovereign into a living person. Could he do it? Therefore, Suyu didn't act rashly. He had to ask clearly first. Suyu stepped into the undead realm, and the aura of death swept over. He looked up at the sky, and it was gray. In the distant sky, there seemed to be a long river that ran through the realm. That was probably the undead heavenly river. At the same time, several hundred miles away from the undead passageway, the undead lords were all staring into the distance in fear. Until now, they hadn't recovered from their shock. One of the monarchs whispered, "Tuafa, are we going back?" It was so dangerous. They didn't know that there was such a dangerous existence on the other side of the passageway. They had thought that the Origin Convergence Saber was the most dangerous. Only now did they know that there was a powerful existence in the Starry Mansion. Tuafa said sullenly, "Wait a little longer." They didn't know if Xingyu was dead or not. She seemed to be related to those humans. That terrifying existence seemed to have been lured out by those humans. If Xingyu isn't dead, we can ask her if she can still go back. This was their lair. If they couldn't go back, they could only wander around the undead realm. Just as they were thinking, a faint laughter sounded in their ears. "If you really have nowhere else to go, we welcome you all to Hongmeng Kingdom as guests." He too. He had pulled people over. No, he had tricked the thugs into coming. At this moment, he too strolled over gracefully from afar. There was a smile on his black face and he looked very trustworthy. However, the group of undead monarchs glared at each other because he too had run faster than them previously. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2727, Chapter 2727, Chapter 580 The Good Man River. Chapter 2727, Chapter 580 The Good Man River. Illustration L. The entrance to the realm of the dead souls. This was Suyu's first time stepping into the realm of the dead souls. As soon as he stepped in, he felt a strong aura of death sweeping over him. He looked left and right, but there was no shadow of a ghost. Obviously, when old Zhou had exploded, the dead souls nearby had either been killed or escaped. Suyu was actually curious about one thing. He asked, "Sir, every time you kill someone in a certain area, the dead souls will appear instantly. Where did these dead souls come from? How did they appear in an instant?" At this time, Xingyue had also returned to the undead realm. It was as if she had returned to her nest. She was much more confident, and her voice was much more cold and arrogant. Her aura was high. As for the undead in the ancient city are usually converted by residents like you. Wait in a pool where the undead are converted. They will be transferred to the ancient city at any time. As for the other places, most of them are randomly chosen by the rules. After saying that, he looked at Suyu with cold eyes. This is my territory now. Su, I have many good friends in the dead souls realm. Su nodded and said with a smile, then congratulations, sir. Don't talk nonsense. Where did you get a good friend? You are just a rotten otaku dead soul. You didn't even help when he too attacked Hongmeng ancient city. One know this, do you think I don't know? The undead guarding the ancient city of heaven destruction all went to help. You didn't go, do you think I don't know? With your personality, do you have a good friend? Who are you kidding? He didn't believe it and was too lazy to say anything. He said again, sir, I discovered that the undead are very fond of collecting ancient city tokens. Why is that? Including here, I can even bribe them with some ancient city tokens. Moreover, many undead were wearing ancient city tokens. In ancient cities, killing undead could drop some ancient city tokens. Star Moon said indifferently, ancient city tokens aren't actually ancient city tokens, but ancient identity tokens. They are functions given by the rules. When the level of the ancient city token is high enough, the undead wearing it can recover some intelligence. The rules give it to them. Su suddenly understood. You mean that as long as the level of the ancient city token is high enough, like these ancient city tokens in my hand, the rules will automatically help you regain some intelligence. That's right. Star Moon said indifferently, but the ancient city tokens that are left now are all very low level, including the ones in the ancient city. In fact, they are only the identity tokens of some ancient small figures. There aren't many who are actually higher level. The so-called higher level tokens were, at the very least, the tokens held by the miscellaneous generals. Su actually had some on him as well. For example, the ancient city token of Xinghong was held by the miscellaneous generals, while the ancient city token of Hongmeng could be considered a title general's token. These things could promote the revival of the dead souls. No wonder. In other words, the pursuit of the ancient city token by the dead souls could be considered as an instinct. If they could get more of this token, they might be able to speed up the revival of their memories. The 10,000 races probably didn't know much about the undead world. They only knew that there were quite a few undead lords. Su was also very curious about this world. Like a curious baby, he asked, Sir, is there a city in the undead world? City? Xingyu said coldly, the undead only possess a bit of intelligence when they reach the sun and moon. Only when they are almost invincible can they speak. Only when they reach the monarch level can they have true self-awareness. What do they need a city for? Of course, some monarchs would also build some palaces for themselves. This was because of their memories when they were alive. They did not need a city. What was the use of having a city? In such a huge country, a undead monarch and a few quasi-invincible monarchs. Could it be that they were building a big city and wandering on the streets with these undead? They were so bored. Su was speechless. Just as he was thinking. Xingyu said again, however, we don't have any around here. It seems. There are places. I once heard from a traveling undead monarch that there is a city of undead in the eastern region. Many undead monarchs will go there to trade or cultivate, there are many undead monarchs there. It is said that there are Dao fusing experts there. Su was surprised. You haven't been there before. Why should I go? Xingyu's voice was cold. Why should I go? One like to stay at the ancient city of Xinghong. Are you not convinced? Su understood. As expected, it was still a rotten house. The house was so rotten. It seemed that there were still cities in the dead souls realm, but there probably weren't any in this area. Su asked again, Sir, are there many Dao fusing experts in the dead souls realm? L don't know. Have the top experts who died in the ancient times been revived? L don't know. They're either revived or they're in the dead souls realm. You can go in and find them yourself. Xingyu wasn't polite with her words. Go and find them yourself. Dead souls realm. Suyu looked into the distance at the sky river that ran through heaven and earth. He asked again, "Sir, is the dead soul's realm really a river?" "Of course. In the sky river, the death chi turns into river water that runs through the entire dead soul's realm, summoning the souls of the dead. When living beings fall, they may appear in the sky river of the dead souls. By chance, they will regain their memories." Suyu nodded. He had heard of this before. However, the sky river seemed to be very far away. Xingyu continued, "The sky river, the territory of the dead souls, including the dead souls, is rarely visited. This is because I don't know if there will be a sudden revival of the powerful dead souls or if they will be devoured by the sky river of the dead souls. As for you, once you go, you will be completely turned into a dead soul." "So scary." "Alright, I don't want to challenge it. Can I hold on?" Suyu looked around. It was a gray area, and it was somewhat depressing. You're tuning into the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 2728, Chapter 2728, Chapter 580 The Good Man River Illustration 2. Chapter 2728, Chapter 580 The Good Man River Illustration 2. The surroundings were as desolate as if it had existed since ancient times. The ground was black. Suyu stomped his foot, but the ground didn't move at all. It seemed to be extremely sturdy, and traces of deathly aura were also seeping out from the ground. Suyu wanted to dig some soil to see what material it was made of. Just as he was about to crouch down to dig, Xingyu shouted, "Don't move." In the realm of the dead souls, these black soil are used to protect the dead souls. Once it is dug out, there will sometimes be some big trouble. What big trouble? One don't know. Suyu was speechless. You don't know. Because it's different. Xingyu said coldly, sometimes, you will dig out an ancient dead soul that is sleeping. Sometimes, you will dig out a corrosive aura that will corrode even the aura of death. Sometimes, you will dig out a curse. Alright, Suyu was speechless. Was the underground so complicated? He listened to the old man's words to avoid suffering a loss. He put aside his research. He was not Wulan and Baifeng. In order to conduct research, he would dig everywhere. Suyu calculated that today should be the 20th day of the opening of the Starry Manor. He had better rush back 30 days ago and stab them in the back. You think I am outside, I am inside, you think I am inside, I am outside. You want to stop me, I'll bring people to stop you. Suyu was not interested in exploring the dead soul's realm. He had to eat as much as he could. In ancient times, countless people died. Who knew if there was a real emperor here? Even if there wasn't, the dead soul's realm would have a lot of Daomerge. In ancient times, the Marquis was in the Daomerge, and some conferred generals were in the Daomerge. These guys, even if they turned into dead spirits and did not fully recover, they were still stronger than Suyu. Very soon, Suyu said, "Sir, is there a way to find he too?" Suyu was overjoyed. There really was a way. Just as he was thinking, a sharp whistle sounded, he too. Come out. Holy shit. Suyu collapsed. This is the way you said. He quickly stood up and walked behind Xingyu with a proper attitude. What the F***ck? Xingyu, this lunatic, is this how you find people in the dead soul's realm? Xingyu was very satisfied. Yes, this is how you find people. If you don't look for people like this, how are you going to find them? Are you going to search inch by inch? In the entire dead soul's realm, even the big Xingyu hadn't explored much. Who knew where he too had gone? He too wasn't an ordinary king of the dead souls. He wouldn't move in one place. That guy often went out to pull people, there were too many places to run to. Also, who knew if he too was dead or not? He looked around to see if there were any living undead. At least he could ask about the situation. He too, come out. This shrill cry continued to reverberate in the undead realm. He too, who was fooling his henchman, was slightly startled. He seemed to have heard a shout. After listening carefully for a while, he looked at Tuafa and said, Tuafa, did the stars and moons shout for me? Tuafa did not hear him clearly and did not care about this. He said in a low voice, he too, don't talk about anything else. It's not impossible for us to go to your country. Give up the dead soul heavenly river. He too was speechless. I'm not talking about official business. Why are you telling me this? I think I heard someone calling me. Xingyue. Is this guy still alive? Perhaps he really isn't dead. Xingyue and Suyu colluded. When Suyu left, he seemed to have taken her with him. Does this mean that he has returned alive and that the changes in the starry mansion are over? This time, he was still a little disappointed. It was an accident that he went to the starry mansion. However, he still wanted to build Su Yu's own army in the starry mansion. In the end, it was all over. At this moment, he listened again. A moment later, he suddenly said, I'll go take a look. Xingyue seems to have really come out. After saying that, he instantly disappeared from where he was. When the other undead lords saw that he had run away, they hesitated for a moment and followed him into the distance. On Su Yu's side, he was following Xingyue around. As Xingyue walked, she said, he too might be dead. If he's dead, then we'll go back to my Xingyue kingdom. That won't do. I have to find a place. Humph. Xingyue snorted. She didn't want to find him. It was so big, where could she find him? However, if she didn't look for it, it would be troublesome for Su Yu to keep absorbing her aura of death. Hope River map was still alive. Su Yu didn't say much and continued to follow her. Along the way, there was nothing. The entire Dead Soul realm was like a graveyard. It was too oppressive, and there wasn't even a small dead soul. According to Xingyue, under normal circumstances, there were actually quite a number of unconscious dead souls wandering around the entire Dead Soul realm. These were all weak undead. Some had crawled out from the undead heavenly river, while some were born directly in the undead realm. The truly powerful ones were all in deep slumber, waiting for their revival. There weren't any here. Perhaps they had all been summoned before, but in the end, they were all killed in one go. They needed time. It would take some time for the unconscious undead wandering around the other realms. Su Yu and Xingyu were the only ones in such a large territory. In fact, Su Yu felt a little depressed. If he explored this place alone, he would probably suffocate to death. Just as he was thinking, Su Yu's heart moved. Xingyu also looked in one direction. Soon, a dead soul gradually appeared in the void. In the distance, he too laughed and said, Xingyu, it really is you. As he said that, he too looked at the undead spirit behind Xingyu with some confusion. Where did he get this? His brain was spinning. As a sage of the undead realm, he too felt that he was still very intelligent. After thinking for a while, he was not sure. Could it be Su Yu?